Chapter 81 Multitasking. Year 109. Just like that, she's gone. A group of 400 of them went on a quest to find the nearest surviving civilization. They packed up after months of preparing, and finally set out when the weather's slightly less hostile. I don't know when I'll see her again, or ever. I recalled those who left me usually died. But oh well, a choice has been made, and she has to live with it. I don't know what lies out there, but maybe she will reach the edge way faster than I am. I am constrained by the terrain. I can't move forward without clearing the demonic corruption that contaminated my path. I tried slowly, and worked to upgrade my giant attendant trees so that they can help absorb and process the demonic corruption. It's a very long process, and not very successful, so I went back to researching the demonic trees. I had two main ideas of getting myself out of this place, they overlap in a way. One is what I was doing presently. Disperse and process the demonic mana using my super high demonic resistance. Problem is, this hinged on me having a high level, high natural healing, and demonic resistance from my hero shards, which is unique to my main body, and the benefits are only partly shared by my other trees. I wanted to upgrade the various healing and endurance abilities of my subordinate trees such that they have higher demonic resistance, better base healing and toughness such that they can play my current role to a lesser extent. To use an analogy, it's as if me and my other trees are made of water, and the demonic corruption is fire. Right now, my other trees can't withstand the fire, so they just burn down before putting out any of the water. I have a finite number of water I can produce, and the water I produced is used to fight the fires, kind of like what a fireman does facing a wildfire. If I have more water than fire at the boundary, I can expand that boundary. If not, my boundary shrinks. It's quite like fighting a perpetually growing wildfire, come to think of it. So, I must have stronger, tougher trees that can also produce that water to help fight the fire. This restores the land to what it was, too. The other area of focus was something a little more inspired by my recent fascination with these demonic hybrid plants. That is, if I could not expand the safe areas and recover the corrupted lands, could I coexist with it? Such that my trees and roots all gain an ability to grow on these corrupted lands, instead of being blocked by it. It's a difficult endeavor, and my initial attempts at studying the live demon trees are quite good. I would need to figure out how to either be able to control the demonic trees, or assimilate some of their natural attributes and qualities, which can then allow me to enhance my existing trees to better operate in the demonic terrain. Going back to that earlier analogy, instead of looking at fire as the problem, I am attempting to create plants that can operate in fire, or absorb fire, instead of fighting it. Far harder than it sounds, since, well, I am essentially attempting to graft demonic biology onto my trees. But I think it's possible. The fact that hybrids can exist means I can create hybrids. Certainly possible in theory. This idea, of course, is hugely opposed by the trees in the valley. They abhor it. I can sense their rejection of the idea, and that earlier duty to just restore the land to what it was before. Duty. Responsibility. The more it is imposed on me, the more I resist it. Or is this just me? After I woke up, I recall being sucked in by the powers and influences of my fellow trees. Did the domain make me more aware of all these influences, and yet, at the same time, attempts to influence me? So strange. It is a duty. Restore and clear the world of demonic corruption. Which I did. I mean, I resist the thought of being told to do things, but I understand the principles of it, and so I did it anyway. I suppose I am like a petulant child that hates to be told to do something, but knows that it needs to be done, so I did it. How immature. I am a 100-year-old tree. Now's not the time to mentally regress and act like a child. There's now a sizable area that's been cleared of demonic influence around my valley, so much so that some of the survivors are now moving outside to live there. Once the corruption was cleared, the weather too quickly returned to normal. It seemed the corruption and the demonic vegetation does generate a microclimate, as predicted. It's about as large as the former territory of New Freaka, so, a semblance of normalcy has returned to the area. Still, the corruption stretched far and wide, and there's more demonic monsters to attend to. Every day we would be attacked, and our beetles would be at the forefront of the battle. Luckily, Horns is back in business after a few months of recovery. And he's been incredibly chirpy. It's totally awesome. Horns said. All I do all day is fight all these demons. I can't level up anymore, but still, it's awesome. I love fighting. I didn't realize I created a combat maniac in Horns. Master. Perhaps more artificial souls will help with the reclamation of the corrupted lands. We do produce some mana, or if some of us are dedicated mana-producing trees. I have been drawing mana from all the normal trees anyway, but they are not as effective against the demonic corruption as my own. I am guessing that's because my mana has anti-demonic properties. What I do need is a massive mana cauldron. I pulled the mana to my main body, and attempted to mix it. Maybe I could infuse the anti-demon qualities into the mana generated by normal trees. It was sufficient, previously, because I had the advantage. With the demon walkers, with Alexis, I could constantly draw on more trees to overwhelm whatever creature. But the changed terrain limited the number of trees, and cut off my connection to the volcano and the ley line, two of my bigger sources of mana. Now, I need to squeeze a bit more efficiency and performance out of every drop of mana. To do more, with less. Thankfully, I've also been able to get my soul forge back online, now that the surrounding area has been cleared of demonic corruption and replaced with a thick forest. And so, I experimented with mana in my main body, just like how I used to do it with my soul forge. I added star mana to the mix too. I still only have 300 star mana, but mixing star mana, my own mana and the mana produced by the normal trees, the effectiveness of pushing back the demonic energy increased by a few multiples. Good enough to keep the expansion going. We have not heard anything from the group that left, but it's fine. I think it'll be years before we get news from them. Food-wise, as the forest starts to reclaim the land, the gods started to work their magic and regular monsters and animals started appearing again. I mean, it's really just divine spawning ability. And with regular monsters and animals, meat started to return to the survivors' diet. A welcome relief, really, and the remaining survivors now look a lot better. Although I felt sad that so many decided that they had enough of being here for 20 plus years, I suppose I should then focus on those who remained instead. After all, although 400 left, 3,000 still remained. That's a big amount of people who decided to stick with me rather than go away. With meat, proper lodging, and a bit more space and time for activities, the survivors are of course, much happier. Well, why didn't you leave, Lofen? Go with your daughter. I asked Lofen one day. Nah, I am too old for that. As an elf, you still look really young. Elven agelessness is amazing. You should be able to go. I'll just hold Lausanne back from her adventure. It's her coming of age moment, me as her mom, I should just stay out of her way. She'll hate me if I tagged along. Besides, I am really quite content being protected and safe. Really, it's better for her that I stay here, where I am safe. It'll put her at ease that her mom is under your protection. She wouldn't have made the decision to go if you weren't around. True. I suppose I've become the safe harbor for her to come back to. There are few children among the survivors. The young that grew up didn't think of having kids, not in this hostile environment. Some did, of course. Perhaps an accident, or perhaps they didn't care, but the more rational of them chose not to. It's a tough choice. I imagine it's like, well, how would you even know if you and your family would even have food, or proper shelter? But I guess that's also partly due to elves, centaurs being more rational than humans, who would just fucking get pregnant regardless of the situation. It's more draining on their body, perhaps. Many are now finally considering it, convinced by the recent 3 years of safety, comfort, stability, and many approached me for advice on whether they should have kids. I have yet to study the effects of pregnancy between different types of species. Would I then be the first pregnancy doctor? I mean, surely the effects of childbirth of different species are worth studying, and there's probably no worldwide compilation of various herbal and traditional remedies and therapies. I digressed. But I said sure, I would support and feed their young should they fail to. It's not much anyway. Are you here to gloat? The two heroes asked. Not really. I came to talk, as usual. With the demon, if possible. What do you want? They instantly turned to the demonic voice. Tell me something. What would make you stop coming to our world? God, mother, planet, stop them. Stop the gods. Kill the gods. Sounds impossible to me. I shrugged. And I am a tree. Killing the gods doesn't sound like something I can do. Then why do you come every 10 years? Ancient magic rules. Oh, okay. There's a magical rule behind it. Well, I don't even know whether the words of this demon can be trusted. It could have lied to me. I mean, we must assume a demon or evil creature has no incentive to tell the truth, but let's consider that if it spoke the truths, there are some key points. There's an ancient magical rule that clearly whatever god or thing that controls these demons have to follow. I could therefore surmise that this ancient magic exists above the gods, and so, the gods of this world are not entirely omnipotent or omniscient, and it may actually be possible to stop them. Next, is that they conflate the god with mother, and planet. Their home world's god is probably some kind of earth god, then. Something like a nativist conscience like the will of a group mind like Alpha Centauri again. Or perhaps, it is a tree mind taken to the extreme. A global network of trees that function as a planetary scale neural network and brain. Or are those spires some kind of artificial intelligence and they are collectively a super AI, and the demon kings sent to us are their version of Terminators? Are more fantasy aligned, just an evil sleeping god and the demons are its worshippers? What rules? Ancient. Why? Who? Ancient. Who is God? God. Mother. Planet. If I had the power, I really should catch a demon king and try to talk to it. I feel like I am talking to some rudimentary chatbot from the earlier years of my life. I am stuck in some kind of conversation loop despite trying to ask more. This is probably the lowest level answer they can give. With that, the demonic voice fades and the two of the trapped heroes return. Well, did you learn anything? The two heroes looked quite annoyed. We didn't, and honestly, it really does sound like some kind of computer program. It's really simplistic in its logic, once you get it. So you understand the demon, now? I asked the hero. To some extent. It just wants to grow, and build, and do whatever its mother asked of it. Mother. Not God. It feels like a mother, rather than a god. It nagged. I smiled, and probably would have chuckled if I could. You're not going to help free us? Simone asked. Maybe. I thought long and hard about this, even though I rejected the divine mission. I didn't want the gods to start having influence over me. But should I still help them, then? I probably can't free you. Oh, I probably could guide the few surviving heroes to them, to help free them. But I chose not to reveal this to them. The demon is always listening, and I wonder what it would do with such knowledge. Yeah, I probably could get the other heroes to free them, rather than me doing it personally. They are mobile and would have the right skills for it. The heroes have everyone reason to help their fellow friends, don't they? Dash. As the year approached its end, I had a small breakthrough with my demonic tree research. Skill. Hybrid botany. Able to communicate and cultivate hybrid trees. Hell yeah. And I tried it out. Even though it's supposed to be winter, the localized effects caused by the demonic trees meant it's an exceptionally warm winter. So warm that it's probably like spring. Well, all I got was spam. It's nostalgic. Like when I had Rootnet for the first time and all the grass and trees started giving me weird shit. It'll take some time before I understand these demonic trees. Dash. Is our combat ability significantly impacted by Lausanne's departure? With you back? No. Jura said. Lausanne is strong, but there are a lot of us who are level 80. Me, Nero, one of the captains, there's easily 15 people left who are now level 75 to level 80 who can play her role to a lesser degree. Her key advantage is that her special familiar has a lesser version of your power, so without you, her aura was key in reducing our casualties. Everyone's replaceable, I suppose. Jura laughed out of nowhere. I mean, that's how it always has been, right? That's why so many kings raise so many different children. You never know which one turns out a little crazy. It's risk management not to put all your eggs in one basket. But even for people, I suppose if you could give your special familiar to more of us, that would really help us. I guess the Valthorns were a step in that direction, until that day came. You know, maybe the kings had the right idea. I focused too much on developing Lausanne, and I lost track that Lausanne was also partly meant to be my first try at doing this at a larger scale. I am a tree, and my domain is nature. Grow, strengthen, cultivate. I should now use what I've learned from all these years to massively expand that program. If I am to rebuild, I should do some things differently, and some things, bigger and better. I had Jura, Lausanne and a few others as my elite then. In hindsight, I should have thought on a larger scale. Like any nation or even a large company, talent scouting, hiring, development and retention is an ongoing affair, constantly expanding to meet future needs. I somehow got sucked into the minutiae and messed up on the bigger picture. I need a proper process for this, and on a larger scale, some dropouts and loss like Lausanne's departure is just part of the natural attrition of any large body of people. Scale. What else should I do on a larger scale? Chapter 82 Centennial Plans. Year 110. Another year. Time passed really quickly these days. I think it's the effect of the curse. Even if I am awake, I feel as if it's not totally gone. It's somewhat like nursing a mild headache, and I never quite feel like I am at my 100% state. I suppose this is what a curse feels like, and that's why Jura never quite performed at his best when he had the curse. I wonder whether that princess I saved last time, the one that still had a bit of the curse left, is she still alive? Maybe she died, since Baruch was destroyed. She too had a curse, and so did Mila, at least, until that hero removed it. Curses can be removed, and they can also heal naturally. So, my curse is one of overexposure to demonic mana. It's honestly very similar to the princess who had overexposure to void mana. Therefore, treating the curse is likely to be similar to the princess. In the case of the princess, her soul spring was wrecked, destroyed by the exposure to void mana, and so she was dying. In my case, my soul spring is not destroyed, so I was able to survive those 20 plus years. But perhaps it is damaged, and if damaged, I would have to find out how to mend my own soul spring. All this is conjecture. I don't even know if my soul spring is even damaged yet. After a while, my musings led me nowhere, and I attempted to find out. I mean, I've never seen my own soul spring. It's kind of like asking a doctor to self-diagnose. Not exactly possible to be objective about it, and I may have certain bias too. But oh well, I need to know whether something's wrong with me, and how do I fix this curse. I thought at lengths about whether it's possible to build a soul forge that is aimed at me, while being powered by me. If the soul is the engine of the individual, then like a car engine, I must be able to add sensors, readings, thermometers and all, and from that, a sense of what's happening. That analogy may not be the most suitable one, Master. Trevor commented. It's more of the driver trying to figure out what's wrong with the driver. If I may, it is similar to trying to figure out whether the driver is sick from the way he is driving. That's. How'd he do that? Was he using my memories? Yes, Master. We have access to your memories. Still, I tried. I did something similar to a meditative state, trying to feel my own body, and be one with myself. It's like Buddha meditating under a Bodhi tree, only, well, I am the tree. And my senses are once again assaulted by the demonic mana. After all, the edges of my network of roots and trees are a constant battlefield, where the mixed mana produced by me and my fellow trees face off against the demonic mana. Not working. I mused to myself after about 1 month of constant meditation. In hindsight, it's obvious. I wasn't able to meditate myself out of the curse, so why would it work now? Any suggestions, Trevor? Before you go there, Master, I would like to remind you of the things you wanted to do last year and the years before. Which is to work on expanding your mana pool, improving the efficiency and effectiveness of your mana, your experiments on the hybrid demon trees, and also, developing even more Lausanne class individuals. Once again my scatterbrain reared its head. May I add, Master, you have yet to decide on a vocation for your 2 contracted souls, Yvonne and Ares. You backed away from turning them into mana farms. That wasn't the most effective use of their skills. I had a lot of thinking to do. I mean, this soul contract should be extremely overpowered since the person retained their memories. Even if they died, I could reuse their souls constantly. An individual who gained a ton of experience, and therefore could retry different things at each life would be super powerful. That is after all what makes reincarnators like myself, or even heroes, super powerful, because their existing body of knowledge is brought over to their next life. So, as I wondered what happened as my soul contractors died, then it appeared. The dreaded notification. No penalty for first death. For subsequent deaths, 1 year time penalty will be imposed, and doubled with each subsequent death. 1/3 of all memories are wiped with each death after this first. No penalty on reassignment, as not considered as death. The system isn't stupid after all. So, in a way, it's best to use their living knowledge and match it to somewhere where they could be most useful. So, Ares, the maid that's responsible for caring for Roma all these while, I assigned her to a subsidiary tree that's focused as a childcare area, and she took the form of a nursery tree. I wanted someone dedicated to look after the new children that the survivors will have, and feed them supplements to make strong, high-potential individuals to support my future Lausanne class project. Yes, Lausanne class is a name for an individual at that grade. I imagine the Lausanne class to be something like the Corvette class, and I would like to eventually reach battleships and aircraft carriers. As for Yvonne, I fused her into one of the training trees, creating a different version of trainer. This is because she did have a long stint serving in the Valthorns as their guide and trainer, and she has good combat skills that I wanted her to pass on to the next generation. Though we didn't agree with each other, she has some wisdom and knowledge of the world that would definitely contribute to a more holistic education and training for the next batch. I won't have to care for people for a long time. They both said, noting that the population of young children is extremely small. The survivors are almost all adults now. It's been 20 years, and there's no immigration from abroad to fix the lopsided population pyramid. That's fine. I would think they need some time to get used to their new bodies and their newfound abilities. I want to monitor what they can do. I had initially just let Mila and Alexis somewhat free rein, and I must admit my awareness of what Mila did was close to none. You can provide training to the existing people, consider it as a gym. How about me? It'll be some time before any of them have kids. Aries mentally responded. She found her new body awkward. All of them did, since they were far too used to humanoid forms. Create supplements for the new moms. I am sure they need to boost their body to take on the load of having children. These two trees are Yvonne and Aries. Jura seemed extremely perplexed when I informed him of what I did. Yes, I didn't know you could do that. Jura seemed to think about it at length. Lady Mika was one. Oh, after a while. So if I were to have a soul contract with you, and I died, you could in practice, make me into a tree. Yes. He paused, and then of course, he quickly told Lofen about this, and soon the entire group of survivors knew about it. And then some interesting comments emerged. Well, I know the elves used to say that when we die we return to the trees, but I didn't expect it to be a literal statement. I always imagined it was more of a figure of speech. What did they give for that? Jura asked later that day. For Ares, it was a punishment for luring an army here. For Yvonne, she traded her soul for a patch of grapes and blessings on the land for her winery project. Really? Was I there when that happened? Yes. I recall Jura was in the same room. He was quiet for a moment. Lozan got one. No. Jura breathed a sigh of relief. I trust her. That's good to hear. I don't think we want to be turned into trees, like, literally. Is it? It's not that bad. Yvonne's training tree has a humanoid-shaped tutor that is able to verbally communicate once she gains a few levels. For now, as a level 1 training tree, she's just like a combat dummy that's unable to talk. Ares, I am not sure whether she will eventually gain the ability to talk, but I wouldn't be surprised if she could. What's so bad about trees? Trees don't really need to eat. We can generally regenerate almost all our body parts, and well, we can keep growing. What's not to like? Did you offer it to Lozan? No. Why? Am I right to say this is more of a punishment than a reward? You could say that. I have rarely offered the soul contract. Jura looked relieved, and then he changed the topic. Good. So, children. That's the plan for them. Yes. We will have more children, and they need to grow up strong. I hope to make them as strong as Lozan, if not more. Planning for the long term. Yes. Then Jura spoke about some other priorities, such as weapons for the survivors. Over the past few years, as the responsibilities for defense shifted to my army of beetles, the survivors were able to take a break from combat. Still, it didn't escape anyone's notice that they all needed anti-demon weapons, and that was something Lozan had requested from me before she left. All her spears were damaged or broken over the decades. I dedicated some time to equip the remaining survivors with anti-demon weapons. Over the past few years the repairs to the general environment has been ongoing. This meant things like farms, houses, outhouses, gardens. Things that, well, generally contribute to happiness. Some even asked for the tree of prayers. Which I gladly made one, again. I went back to the next topic on Trevor's list. Hybrid demon trees. I have a dilemma with them. If I were to be seen and known that I have some limited ability to control these demonic trees, would the outsiders suddenly suspect that I too might be a demon? After all, I already have demon fire on the top of my branches like Hades. It wouldn't be a stretch for these narrow-minded natives to suspect that I am perhaps a demon, and that would make me a target of the world's temples and kingdoms. Yet, understanding and controlling them is key to my attempts of breaking out of this place. If I could break them free of the demon's controls, I would be able to accelerate my expansion. And I don't trust any of the survivors to not leak this fact to the outside world, and that's not because I doubt them. This world clearly has mind-controlling and mind-reading magic. The fact that the demons were able to access the hero's memories are obvious enough. So, some things must be kept absolutely secret. Just like the fact that I am also an earther. My newfound abilities over the hybrid botany meant I could vaguely, very vaguely, influence them. It's not yet outright controlled, like with the regular trees. We speak different languages, and I am just a beginner in their language. I will need more time with them. Secretly. Mana. Trevor read out the list. Mana processing. Mana efficiency. Mana allocation. Yes. Mana. That juice that powers all the living beings of this world. That involved working on the giant attendant trees to create super mana farms. List of repairs. Grand Mind Tree. Trevor went on to the next item. Well, need resources for this, Master. Which we do not have. I wonder whether I could configure the Grand Mind Tree into a diagnostic program to check me, since it did have the ability to reduce the effects of any mind control on me, so it should have some kind of scanning ability to identify what the curse did to me. Inventory. Items. Forest Rod. I wanted to keep the Forest Rod for any magical leyline I found, in order to get access to other kinds of Soul Forge colors. Though I believe they would have been extremely useful in converting this general area back to normal, I still think the Forest Rod's unique ability to capture special magical locations should not be wasted on just any regular sludge and corruption. Well, unless I find the main source or node of this corruption, then I would want to use the rod. I mean, I'd risk it for the chance to convert the entire corrupted continent into my domain. That'll just be awesome. Preparations for the next Demon King. Trevor asked. Would that be something of concern? Yes. We have to be prepared. Though, if something like this happened again, what could I have done differently? Well, I honestly have no answer to this. If this corruption happened again, what could have I done? As the year drifted ever closer to its end, a group of survivors returned. About 30 of them. Their return was met with a massive celebration. Eon, the leader of the returned survivors, spoke. There is civilization out there. After 4 months of traveling, we finally got out of the corrupted area and made contact with a kingdom. Only our continent suffered significant damage from the corruption, and many are amazed that a pocket of us survived in the middle of the Rotted Lands. Rotted Lands? Jura and the rest of the survivors asked. They were very interested in the outside world. Yes. The outsiders refer to the entirety of the corruption as the Rotted Lands. Well, it differs by region, but most call it the Rotted Lands, or the Blightlands. Many that we've met are interested in forming diplomatic relationships with us, but the terrain is too hostile unless the group is at least level 50 and above, and has the ability to create our own food and filter water, since there's nothing to harvest for a whole 2 months, and there's no clean water anywhere in the entirety of the Rotted Lands. How many did we lose? A Remainer asked. Of the 400, we lost 100 on the journey out. We lost 20 on our way back, even after we came with better equipment and supplies. How's Lausanne? Lofen asked. Lausanne is fine. She and a small group of the younger ones are on a journey to the other cities and kingdoms. But more importantly, we have a map. The returned men unfurled a massive map that indicated the edges of the Rotted Lands, and as Jura described it to me, it seemed Lily's was so far away that she wasn't harmed. But my other forest and the verdant volcano were both in the range of the Rotted Lands. Were they destroyed? I only lost connection, but I didn't get a message that Dimitri was destroyed. How about the verdant volcano? The map was important for a few reasons. 1. It showed us the shortest path to civilization. Where the edges of the Rotted Lands and where Frika once was. Next, well, who we want to form any sort of diplomatic relationship with. As it is, it's a large distance, and I may be open one path out of the Rotted Lands. Maybe a few more once I get stronger. On the flip side, I may also not open a path, such that the Rotted Land formed a natural moat or barrier. After all, having to go through these Rotted Lands would greatly discourage any attempts at invading us. So who and how we expose and declare our presence is important. And I need to balance this with other aspects of my long-term plans. The Demon King incident is my first, but certainly won't be the last one I face. If I will live for hundreds of thousands of years, as great old trees often do, then I must consider the plans to prevent such events over the longer period. Sure, the first time isn't really my fault, but if I let it happen to me more than a few times, that is entirely on me. The heroes and the Demon King are part of a continuous cycle, and therefore are a predictable, preventable crisis. What could I do? Find ways to let them fight it out elsewhere far from civilization and nature. How can I prevent them from destroying all the gains made by the jungles and forests? All the destroyed natural habitats. That involves knowing. No, influencing where the Demon King and heroes appear. That's unlikely. Or should I aid the heroes such that they kill the Demon King as soon as possible? I have hesitated in participating in this conflict, but as I predicted previously, it comes for me whether I like it or not. Or could I kill the Demon King myself? How did the demon kings die so quickly? Is there some trick? I clearly need to investigate this hex power and see whether I could make a safer version for myself. Like clean nuclear. So, how should we approach the future? It comes for us. Hex. And I will need to gather power to slay the demon king myself. Only with power, we can preserve nature. Without power, nature will just remain a setting for their conflict. Chapter 83 Tangled Webs. Year 111. I didn't think that the great protector of New Freaka lived, Harris said, as he arrived at the edges of my restored valley. He came with a group 100 strong. The rumors of the survivors are true after all. Good decision, Commander. A commander bowed next to him. They saw the field of normal green trees. Indeed. I wonder where they have hidden the past 20 years. Perhaps they were biding their time. All right, let's stop. We're in their territory now. Harris said. Yes, Your Highness. They nodded, and the group of 100 moved nimbly. They were clearly well trained and of a decent level. They didn't look like guards, and they were armed with clearly magical star mana enchanted weapons. Jura went to meet them. Jura, along with 100 other survivors. Stop. Who goes there? Jura and all were well armed, but their equipment paled in comparison. In a straight fight, they would have lost easily. Still, they were alerted to these visitors, and they moved quickly. This is the entourage of His Holiness, the Emperor Harris I, Slayer of the Demon King, Supreme Ruler of the Harisan Empire, and you stand before the Emperor himself. It would be wise to kneel, peasant. One of the men said. He leapt ahead with his armor gleaming, clearly showing off his enchanted gear. Jura shrugged. He hasn't lost his distaste for royals. Greetings, Emperor Harris. You walk on the blessed lands of Eon the Ageless, the great tree spirit and defender of the valley. We, the believers of the true spirit of the land, kneel before no king or royal. The man was quickly offended and wanted to attack, but then Harris stepped in. Greetings. Pardon my entourage, their zeal to glorify my name is but a minor crime. Truly, does Eon still live? Jura shrugged. We've never doubted him. But it seemed that the outsiders have. Harris laughed. He's no longer a child now, a man in his late 30s, yet the glow of his heroic presence was unmistakable. He was equipped, from head to toe for war, every item he wielded radiated enormous amounts of star mana. It would not be out of place, if anyone assumed he was preparing to face the Demon King. What brings you here, Emperor? Watch your words. One of Harris' lackeys interrupted. Jura ignored it. Harris took a step forward. I stayed very briefly in New Freaka, before my fateful battle with the Demon King. I still remember the great tree spirit's massive wooden shields that blocked out the demon's attack. In hindsight, I should have predicted that the tree spirit lived. I still have his familiar, after all. Some of the lackeys were like, whoa and wow. Goodness. The hero surrounded himself with sycophants. Anyway, may I speak to the tree spirit? I have much to discuss with a being of such great power. Jura paused, but I think he knew he wanted me to tell him what to do. I mentally agreed, and Jura looked at Harris. Certainly, but the tree spirit would not have all of you armed, and only you alone. The lackeys were about to say something ridiculous again. If there are any accommodations or rest stops for my group to rest, that will be sufficient. Perhaps a hotel, if such institutions survived. It's fine for me to meet the tree spirit myself. Unfortunately, 20 years without customers has been extremely hard on our hotels, so none of them remained. Jura joked. Let's come this way. Jura led them into one of the tunnels, and from there, they arrived in the submerged valley. They looked quite surprised to see a massive tree with a burning top that's hidden underneath. How did we miss this? Harris said quietly. But before the sycophants could answer, he cut them off. Rhetorical question. Jura and the survivors watched the group carefully, and soon, they saw the beetles. But right before one of the sycophants wanted to attack the beetle, Harris stopped it. Idiot. Can you use your brain and think, why is there a beetle here? It must be the tree's servants. I see they haven't changed much. Oh, Jura asked. You've seen them. Yes, I have. 20 over years ago, he said. So, where can I meet the tree? Ah, right this way. Could you request your men to wait over at that area? Jura pointed to a resting area that's made last year. There's a lot of wooden furniture, a small blossoming collection of fruit juice stalls, and some barbecue stalls that roast the local meats, kind of like an al fresco food court. Harris nodded, and the men obeyed. Only Jura and Harris walked to one of the larger giant attendant trees, that's been converted to a meeting room. He sat alone inside. Eon will speak to you here. Jura nodded, and he shut the door. Inside the giant attendant tree, There's only him. He looked around, as if he was waiting for something. Hello, Harris. I said. Ah, makes sense that a tree spirit is telepathic. The last time we met, all I got was a notification about the familiar, when Lady Mika spoke. Greetings, Eon. Much has changed. I was told you sought us out, once you found out of our existence. Indeed. Harris sat. Let me cut to the chase, Eon. We are 4 years away from the next Demon King, maybe 5 years if we are lucky. I am trying to gather a force to defeat the next Demon King as soon as it spawns, and your defensive abilities are something that's quite firmly etched in my mind. Would you help me? Interesting offer, but I suppose you did not forget that I am an immobile tree. That's true. But, we could make artifacts that could temporarily store some of your abilities, as a single-use skill. With a bit of star mana, and some special crystals, we could create a spell matrix that could store some of your shields. In fact, I'd also like to store that demonic suppression aura of yours. It would prove incredibly helpful in a battle against the Demon King, at least it would help to weaken the lackeys for the rest of us. Well, it seemed all the survivors are making plans for the Demon King, so that's an encouraging sign. Certainly it is aligned to my own goals, so in this case, I should cooperate. Agreed. But I will demand some of those spell matrices for my own use. Harris laughed. That's quick. I expected a tree to take a longer time to deliberate such things. There's also another matter. 20 over years ago, New Afrika played host to many refugees. Royalty of many families. And you might remember many kingdoms were destroyed, essentially beheaded. Because the demons possessed powerful ranged weapons. And, well, may I ask you to offer the same protection to my offsprings? I find that hard to believe, hero. You have star mana and the ability to create powerful magical defenses. Certainly your capital has been enchanted many times to prepare for such an event. Yes, it has. But the children are fools. They squabble with each other over petty goals, and trigger their star mana artifacts too easily, exhausting them. Artifacts meant for greater dangers. He said, sighing. A cup of tea appeared next to him. He sipped. And damn, I missed this tea so much. He drank another sip. Seriously. This damned world is trying to kill us. Who? They got Becky. It's the tea that makes me feel upset. Harris sighed. The demons. They killed her a few years ago. Even though we fought together. Well, maybe except Gerard, who's too busy getting drunk and hiding in strange places throughout the world. The human hero looked sad, confused, and tired all at the same time. I wonder whether the tea was alcoholic, because I was damn sure it wasn't. It's just a bit of hospitality. Fuck the gods, why no? This fucking game is just engineered to kill us. We're leader heroes. We have armies of magical summons, and the gods just fucking turn it around and spawn super demons where our army of magical summons are just fodder, and wide swaths of my army boosting abilities are just absolutely useless. They made this game and tie one of our hands right behind our backs. Why is he ranting? It's just so nostalgic to come back to the first place where we were saved. Damn it. I suddenly feel like I am a young teen again. I checked whether any of my tree of prayers or psychedelics were active. Nope. I think he's just having all these things pent up. Fuck it. He took a deep breath. Yeah, stupid kids. Would you protect them? They're still my children, but damn if they are not idiots. I don't remember being so idiotic as a young teenager. When you look back, every generation has always thought the younger generation were idiots. Harris paused. Well, yeah, but still, they are my idiots. And that annoys me. This fucking world is out to kill us. Me, Mireille, Gerard. Just 3 of us left. I just hope my stupid kids don't get involved. How many kids do you have? I think he blushed. I think about 26. The youngest one is 1. 2 of my wives are pregnant. I didn't know what to say about that. Wait, he's only in his 30s, maybe he's just going to turn 40 soon. Doesn't that mean he has at least 1 baby a year? Well, he finished the tea. Can I have more? A small vine produced hot water, and another added crumpled, dried powder into the cup. You've been productive. Yes. So, you're asking me to offer protection to a very, very large number of people. Harris frowned. Yes. I still don't get it. You don't trust your own magic, and you prefer to trust me. I was skeptical. Extremely. This sounds like a royal asking for protection again. I thought long and hard about it. So long as I live, I am certain my family will survive. My star mana, My heroic powers means I will still be able to protect them with my powers. I've tried my best to store my powers in spell matrices and all that, but artifacts able to store hero-grade powers are few and far between, and very often, usable only once, sometimes twice. Unlike other generations of heroes, our powers are mostly summons, and creatures, and that doesn't extend to grand magical formations. We could still do them to a far lesser degree, but it's not the same as what a ritual-focused hero or what a pure enchanter hero could achieve. When we level, our hero-grade skills are given, and it's not like we can force those skills into something they are not. For example, Mirai has extremely powerful lightning abilities, but none of those are a usable shield of any kind. Strange to say this, we are constrained by the scope of our gifts. Our talents for skills outside our designated hero class is ordinary, and if we want more, we have to trade our hero levels for them. He paused. And so, if something falls outside our rather specialized scope, we have to then turn to native experts for aid. My life is unfortunately fragile, weak, and I am a marked man, hunted by future demon kings. I will fail eventually. Before that, tell me, how did you survive 2 demon kings? Oh, the first one. Astra. Harris took a deep breath. He did a cursed ritual, melding blood magic, star mana and the magic of the land. And whatever he did, well, it blew up the demon king. When the second demon king came along, he tried the same thing, but something happened and he died. That meant me, Becky, Mirai and Gerard gathered together to face the demon king when we found out it was headed towards the Northern Isles. And although Astra died, whatever it used weakened that second demon king significantly. Yet, we still lost Becky. Ah, so whatever that hero did worked. Only, the price was too high to pay for it to be done more than once. The next demon king, we won't be so lucky. Harris seemed to be waiting for a response from me, but I didn't reply. So, my family. My luck will run out eventually. I intend to still protect them, and existences like yourselves is an insurance I hope I never have to use. Decades ago, though to me it feels just days ago, I told the royals then that they are free to seek refuge in my lands. I intend to maintain that principle, and so, your offsprings are free to seek refuge in my land. But like then, no special privileges. Is this the fate of people like me, repeating the same sentences over and over again? I feel like a broken record, and it should fucking annoy me. I should outsource it to an artificial soul, or train a bunch of people to repeat my principles. Kinda like a call center, or a visitor center that repeat the rules to a bunch of unruly tourists. It'll be even better if they get to do it with the same lack of enthusiasm and boredness. Yeah, I should outsource and automate it. It'll be the first TreeTree service and call center. Or maybe an artificial mind, tasked to repeat the same responses many, many times. Not what I hoped it'll be, but that will do. Harris frowned. So, where have you been hiding for the past 2 decades? Me, I was asleep. He laughed. Ah, and the survivors, they somehow made do in this sunken valley. Yes, never mind. Back to what I initially came for. Once I return, I will begin commissioning the construction of the spell storage gems, and I will have them delivered. Let me know once you've finished infusing your skills in them. How? I mean, I've never seen such an item. I doubt they come with easily understood manuals, and even if they did, they are usually made for humanoids, not trees. Good point. I'll come over with it. At this point, I remember the 2 heroes that are trapped. I pondered whether to let Harris know about them, and I considered the consequences, whether he would doubt or suspect that I have anything to do with it. Then I decided, it was probably best if I told him anyway. Maybe heroes get special rewards for freeing their friends' souls. Harris. When I was asleep, I saw your friends. My friends. Simone and Victor. Their souls were captured by the Demon King, and they are being corrupted. Harris' face paled instantly. What? Where? How? How do you know? I don't know much, and I saw it in a dream, but they are likely to be near where you all fought the Demon King. Look for a red crystal, and break it. He paused, and he paced the room in circles. I swore we cleared out the field in an attempt to clean up the corruption, but then again, it could be hidden underground. I must let Mirai and Gerard know if this is true. It explains the weird dreams we've been having. They must have been trying to speak to us but couldn't get through. Outside, Harris' entourage was getting restless. It's been almost 2 hours. I am not able to free them, but maybe you could. Honestly, there really was no way I could reach the Demon King's site, with all the sludge and corruption between us and them. Harris nodded. On this matter, I will handle it. I will be in touch. And with that, Harris and his entourage left. There wasn't much he could do about the message system's failure in this area, because the magical interference came from the vast fields of sludge, and the hero with the communication tower ability died a few years ago. Theoretically, if I clear out enough of the sludge, magical interference and decay will drop and the messaging system will restore itself. I suppose on top of behaving like a polluting oil, it also emits some kind of magical wave that causes magic to break down over time. Very similar to Hex, really. He was here before, TreeTree. Jura asked. Yeah, you don't recognize him. He said he was mostly with Lady Mika, so he didn't really particularly stick in my mind. Jura said. It's hard to recognize people I've met 20 years ago. He doesn't even look the same. He looks largely the same to my spirit vision. But his glow is larger than before, I suppose it's the levels. He's not exactly hiding his presence. Or maybe he can't, he doesn't have the right skills. Ah well. Thankfully his entourage were well behaved once he was out of sight. They're just putting up a show when he is around. Interestingly, they don't like each other all that much. I think they all work for different people. His different wives, perhaps. I mentally chuckled. Is this the logical outcome of a harem? I mean, sure, the harem can get along, but once everyone has their own children with the same father, it's just a source of conflict, isn't it? Every mother wants to protect her own offspring, and so they compete for attention. Human nature makes it so that it is hard to be fair, and be seen and perceived as fair. Even if he acted fairly, it may appear as favoritism. Jura laughed too. Well, that's why I am single. I spend too much time practicing. My efforts to mix normal mana and star mana did help to improve its efficiency, but I still haven't gotten a skill for it. Thanks to that, we've managed to expand the forest to cover a long strip of land that leads to one of the nearby towns. I've decided to still leave a large patch of unconverted sludge between my forest and the town, just as a moat, but this entire process meant they only had to travel about 1 month through the sludge, and they'll arrive at the edges of that long forest. Viewed from above, it's like the forest extended one long-ass vine to reach for the town. Meanwhile, my research on the demonic hybrids also made some progress. I've gained some more understanding of their nature, such as their bodies actually absorb ambient energies and convert it to their demonic mana. In a way, it's air-powered. They don't need sunlight, but they do need some water, and they absorb it from the air, which is why they can exist in multiple forms and colors. They also have like some kind of water vision, which means they will often target non-native animals, like elves or humans, or even ordinary wildlife which has far higher water content than the demonic hybrids. Are these demons like some kind of reimagination of animals in a post-water scarcity world? Mars in its dying days. I've yet to connect to the wider network of these hybrid trees, fearing that they may overwhelm me. So far, all my attempted connections have been with standalone hybrid trees that have been isolated. They respond well to demonic mana, but when flooded with my normal mana they just freeze and enter hibernation. Still, I persisted, and I carved a segment where I experiment more on them. Maybe these hybrid trees can act as a first line of filter, such that they weaken the demonic energy's pressure at the edges. Something like an absorbent or suspension, having a transitory species of trees that can act as a medium between the two varying ecologies. Maybe I can engineer something. A new plant species that straddle the two worlds. At that very thought, I felt a huge repulsion, of disgust from the rest of my network of trees. These feelings, they come from the native trees, and they despised that thought. Ha, natives. I am a foreigner, outworlder too. Why do you not reject me then? Besides, plants certainly evolve in my world, these hybrids are clearly an adaptation, an evolution in this world. Why exclude these newcomers? Chapter 84 Expanding Frontier. Year 112. At first I left a gap of rotted lands between the wider uncorrupted world and my recovered areas, as I expanded. Beneath all the once corrupted lands were normal lands, and some of them had minerals, or had geological features that were once hidden by the sludge. Clearing the land meant all these were revealed, and the new trees used to clear these spaces discovered the higher concentration of certain minerals when their roots extended into the ground. Some of these were common minerals, like regular iron, or copper. Some areas were just certain types of soil that were suitable for making pottery or clay. I'd imagine these resources would be suitable for construction or allow the creation of certain industries. Though our population is still only about 3,000-ish, if the refugees come along, I would see this amount increase over time. There will be refugees. How would they get past the rotted lands? Jura asked. Good point. That was when I realized my idea of creating a moat was quite stupid. Sure, the moat makes it harder for enemies to come in, and it also helped to thin any army's numbers by having to fight the demons, but it almost completely denied the refugees or anyone who wanted to live in my domain. And that meant I would forever have a far smaller army to work with. Refugees in this world are mostly escapees of war. Though they are desperate and may have levels, they are mostly unarmed and would not survive a whole month through the rotted lands. Since any army that wants a piece of me would march through the rotted lands anyway, with all the necessary logistics to survive the journey, I decided to make smaller paths to the outside world, which would then be fortified with walls, various tree defenses, and a huge bunch of beetles. That way, prospective refugees can still get a safe path in. I can't do the same things as expect a better result. An expansionary approach is something I didn't try, though I am fond of the turtling concept. In fact, maybe that's why I am even a tree. A tree by nature is immobile, but perhaps I should embrace rapid expansion of weeds. We're already drawing attention. A few of the survivors said. Eons expansion has made our lands very attractive. There's so few of us. We can't hold off those lands. Jura shook his head. Eon has decided to hold on to those lands. Anyone who wants it will have to go through his army. In fact, a nearby kingdom officially launched an invasion force of 30,000. They would cut across the small strip of rotted lands and then start to settle in reclaimed areas closest to their kingdom. It wasn't much of a battle. By the time that army did cross the rotted lands, they lost about 2,000 people. They gained levels, though. When they emerged from the rotted lands, Jura helped make an announcement that they are invading my lands. Of course, they ignored it. Then, they were attacked by hidden beetles, scattered across the newly made forests. There were some high-leveled individuals in there, perhaps around level 50 to 80, and for those, I dealt with them personally. Mostly by just harassing them with serpentine root strike and a volley of poisonous fruits from everywhere. Didn't take long for the 30,000 to become only 20,000, and then deciding that it's better to just run away, since they soon realized the army of beetles is a lot bigger than they were prepared for. I have 100,000 subsidiary trees, and that meant if I ever max out on beetles, that's a total of 500,000 beetles. 500,000 beetles that regenerate 100,000 beetles per month. It's just, I could zerg rush the nearest kingdoms. How many kingdoms can fight off 100,000 beetles each month anyway? Of course, I can't practically max out beetles, since I have some dedicated for other roles, like housing, like training areas, or some as defenses. There's also the issue of levels. I mean, if someone kills 100,000 beetles, I am damn sure the system's going to give him some super beetle immunity, or beetle resistance, or beetle slayer abilities. In fact, this very issue is why it's better to have a diversified army, because if at any time your opponent ever gains a skill advantage, it applies over the entirety of the army. Imagine if a general had beetle slayer general, or something like that. That would mean my beetles are effectively useless. Or maybe some mage gets bug spray, or something. After that defeat, there was no more invasion for the rest of the year. I count that as a yay, because obviously now the other kingdoms realized it ain't easy trying to take land away from a tree. Trade and commerce is gradually returning, and so the survivors reorganized themselves as a new administrative body for the entire land, once again, with me as the spiritual leader. There's no large-scale refugee movement yet, not with the land being relatively peaceful. The demonic rifts have yet to reopen, and the hybrids of the rotted lands don't seem to stray far from their native environment. Any opinions? Jura went and met Yvonne in her training tree. Yvonne gained a wooden form that can talk and communicate with people, but unlike Mila or Alexis, her wooden body remains stuck in her tree. Quite strange, and I reckon the heroes just have special treatment. Strategically, Eon should communicate with all the nearby kingdoms for alliances, and since the land is unoccupied, perhaps he could arrange some kind of lease or vassalage system. Maybe work with some unhappy nobles in the kingdoms who'd be happy to defect over to Eon's side, since Eon would probably allow for a wider range of flexibility than some insecure king. In short, an arrangement similar to New Frika, but open to the rest of them. There's going to be conflict. Jura shook his head. You've seen how sensitive Eon is with certain matters. It can be managed. I personally have begun to realize it's a question of distance. Eon cares a lot less about what the kingdoms do, when they are far away. I suggest declaring this entire valley some kind of holy land. Then all the cities that spring out around the valley to be the Holy Land's defender nations. Jura just paused, and stared at Yvonne's wooden face. Seriously. It's what the human kingdoms did a long time ago. The lesser human vassal nations around the main human country were referred to as the Paladin Kingdoms. The capital was the sacred city of the hero king. Huh. History's interesting. It tells us what has been done before, and what we can do again. Yvonne nodded. I would definitely recommend this strategy to Eon. Lesser nations under one spiritual protector. Eons already worshipped back in the days of New Frika. A returning deity surely can sway the minds of many. He should very much take advantage of his past reputation, and his now public relationship with the hero. The hero, Harris. Ah yes. Harris' visit was widely publicized. The affairs of Harris, the harem hero emperor, was tabloid fodder. They speculated whether there's a woman waiting for him at my place, or perhaps an illegitimate child. Harris has quite a special position according to the merchants, as he built his empire by reclaiming vast amounts of rotted lands. In fact, his entire territory sits on reclaimed rotted lands, with his army of summoned knights to patrol and fight off any monsters. Each time one of his many women has a child, he would reclaim more land, which would be awarded to that newly born child, though still managed by the crown. I can't help but mentally laugh at the idea. I mean, he's like totally living the life of many isekai main characters, and the consequences of that sort of lifestyle, such that he has to reclaim land to secure the future of each of his many children. As it turned out, heroes' children actually do not inherit any of their father or mother's special blessings, so their children are absolutely ordinary, except for their special station in life. Of course, their special station in life means they get the best trainers, teachers, equipment and gear, which, if they use it properly, that'll be good. But his oldest child, a teenager at 17 years old, is rumored to be arrogant, abuses his status as the prince and, like his father, a womanizer. I mean, he had fun during the years having so many women, so now he has to deal with the consequences of having so many women, right? Once he passes away someday in the future, maybe his kids will squabble and a war will break out among their children over the land. Since all the children all receive special star mana weapons, extra enchantments and stuff, surely there will be perceived inequality and there will be war. I've seen it in telenovela, or even business empires. In a way, maybe Yvonne is right. I am in the unique position of being a nigh immortal tree. Surely any empire I build will last longer than one of human heroes. It's a norm that few empires survive their founders. I spent some time thinking about it, and I think it's a good idea, and totally worth trying. Let's try an expansionary strategy, and I do like the idea that this entire valley is sacred land. The survivors grouped together and split the territories around us into 10 parcels, for now, with more to come as I expand further, and a declaration was made. 10 parcels of land awaiting for settlement, a constitution drafted, with terms closing resembling that of the old New Frika, but with some modifications. A map was made, areas marked as protected territories, where no large-scale settlement or logging can be made, and areas where the settlers can build their own homes. Each of the 10 parcels were to determine their own rulers or governors, but they would have to operate under my umbrella, provide a contribution to the overall military and magic defense, and accept instructions that I may periodically bestow. In short, I've become the tooltip or foreign monarch that's now going to hand out duties to my new vassals. Kind of like Tropico. Then, with the aid of some merchants, an invitation was made to everyone on the entirety of our continent. Though I suppose the message first got to the rich and powerful, eventually it'll spread to the common folk. Come. Join the Rotted Lands restoration effort. Open up new lands. Rebuild the lost cities of the past. Be part of Eons' domain. Eons' frontier. Be a pioneer. 10 largely self-governing parcels for the taking. Come. And I waited. Of course, this decision rather surprised Yvonne and Jura. Both didn't think I would do something like that. I know. I probably wouldn't. But my old strategy was not working. I want to grow. If it didn't work, I can just crush them with my army of 500,000 beetles. With that settled, I moved on to other matters. Harris was supposed to return with a bunch of artifacts that could store my skills, but he didn't come this year. A messenger came and notified us that procurement of the necessary materials took far longer than expected. And Era's transformation into a nursery tree was quite interesting and fascinating. She's essentially a large tree that's like a childcare center, and like Yvonne, she too can take the form of a tree person. Interestingly, she can make multiple copies of herself within the childcare center, and her mind somehow allows her to do all the things together. A part of her tree is able to produce all sorts of milk and saps to feed the young children, some even directly via vines that are shaped like milk bottles, or for the centaurs, udders, or for the treefolk, thick sap-like drops. It's really cool, and she gained level quite quickly. It's quite surreal to still see you, Mom. Roma said to Yvonne. He sat inside her tree, practicing. I mourn your death, and yet, here you are. She tapped Roma on the head. Well, looks like fate has other plans for me. More like Eon had other plans for you. And I am not quite sure if I like it. She shrugged. Dash. As the year slowly reached its end, after all that fighting and expanding, I got something I wanted. You have gained a level. You are now level 153. Your skill, Natural Mana Overwhelming, has been upgraded. I hoped for a new skill, but it seemed the system was more keen on just upgrading my skills. Still, it made it easier for my mana to push back and put out the demonic mana. Next year, I would be closing in on the volcano and the southwest forest. I'd hope to see how the rod and Dimitri's artificial mind is holding up. I had the notification that I lost my connection to Dimitri, but not one that indicated that he died. Perhaps, with the use of the magical ley line, he was able to use its mana to push back against the demonic corruption. That would be great, since I wouldn't have to rebuild that entire southwest forest. I would like to start reconnecting with the lilies again. I have a lot of questions, and I think only great old beings like them can answer it. Oh, naming. So, we need to brainstorm a name for our new city. The survivors reconvened. Apparently it was an important matter, because they didn't know how to describe themselves, and they didn't want to use the name of New Frika, which was destroyed. The conversation went somewhat like this. Neo Frika. Too similar to the old name. Frikabaru. EU. Freela. No. Eon Frika. Sounds too much like a bad nickname. Eonland. No. After days, and I think weeks of numerous meetings, no one could settle on a name, because everyone wanted something else, and in the end, they voted as a whole, to force me to name the area. I didn't have a good name either. New Frika. Nope. Even better Frika. Frika 3.0. Nope. In the end, because we are deep in the rotted lands, I decided something that opposed the meaning of rotted. Freshka. Yes. The city of Freshka. I felt numerous facepalms in the entirety of the valley, as if a million dreams were silenced and crushed all at once. I thought I was quite clever, but everyone else didn't. But, they reluctantly accepted my proposed name. Because Freshka is fresher. Fresh. Like new, but fresh. It's like a bad cringy commercial. If Mila was here, she'd say my naming sense is atrocious. Freshka. The good thing is, it's just going to be the name of the new city that's going to be built at a new location, quite a distance from the valley. I mean, now that large areas are back to their normal, forested ways, not everyone wants to live near a giant flaming tree anymore. So, they found a place where there's a river, a nice slightly sloped flatland to start their new city. 3,000 people made the move there. The second new capital of the other restored lands. The other being Harris Empire, of course, which is on the other side of the continent. If the entire rotted lands was an apple, his empire would be shaped like a bite into the apple. Should I call the general area Freshlands, then? Freshens. Frieshkens. Frieshens don't sound that bad either. Chapter 85 Plant Fossils. Year 113. Time is running out, and Harris Panic reflected that. Only 10. I asked. I looked at the 10 crystalline objects. It's a lot harder to obtain spell crystals at the necessary quality and purity. These 10 spell matrices are able to store one skill or ability, which can be reused up to 3 times each. That's only 30 uses. It's a lot better than nothing. Harris nodded. If I manage to get more, I certainly will bring them over, but rather than wait, I thought of just testing these 10 out now. True. Never know if they might fail. Harris was alone in the valley. His army of entourage was not allowed in, and so they made themselves comfortable in the new city of Freshka. I looked at the 10 items, and asked. So, you'll give me some of them? He paused, and he rubbed his head. I know I agreed to give it to you, but, it'll affect my survival chances. Can I just give you one, first? And if I live, I'll give you 5 of these spell matrices. Will they break after they are used? I sort of think they wouldn't because they look incredibly well made, and the material's gorgeous. I'd imagine these things to fetch an incredibly high price if one were to even try doing it. They should NT. They need to have the skills reinserted again. They just become empty. You can try it out. Though, there's a recharge time before they can start receiving skills again. It wasn't hard to input a skill into the crystal. All I had to do was think of the skill I wanted to use, and then sort of will it into the gem. I got it after like 20 tries. So, all 10 gems now have steelwood barrier, and he kept 9 of it. They had a faint greenish glow. Partly why it took me so long is because I wanted a gem that essentially replicates all the effects of a skill, not just store the skill. There are plenty of spell matrices out there that stores just the skill, but those lose the passive effects and other caster-specific qualities that make the spell or skill strong. After all, I am quite certain your strength comes from a lot more than just the skill alone. I didn't have to reply. Harris probably noticed my reluctance as he quickly changed the topic to something else. Oh, I didn't tell you, but we found the red crystal that was mentioned. It was indeed hidden under a massive pile of sludge. And we broke it. Oh, I haven't checked on the two heroes in a while. Indeed, I couldn't access that area anymore. Gerard and Mireille found some time out of their busy schedule to visit. They should be on their way here. Two more heroes. I wasn't prepared for that. Why are they coming here? Nothing much, just to meet up and discuss some things in your presence. Gerard seemed to have something that he says will be valuable to you, and us. Me. What could a hero say that could be of use to me? Harris took some time to stay in the new buildings in Fresca. As the rest of the heroes arrived a few days later. They looked different, and in Mireille's case, she's grown a lot taller. Gerard was lean, tanned and had shoulder-length hair. They both have aged, and now look like actual adults. So, this is where the tree is? Gerard asked. Mireille nodded. Yeah, we got lucky when we started out around here, and we got our basic combat training here. At least, well, when it was here. I see. They soon approached Fresca, and regrouped with Harris. After a bit of chit-chat and catch-up, they came to see me. Gerard seemed quite interested. It's really, really big. I had the impression that all tree spirits are large. Mireille said. Or is this one of your half-drunk statements? Not at all. I might be half-drunk most of the time, but tree spirits do go through regular growth periods. I've met small tree spirits before. Gerard looked quite relaxed around me. Harris took out the spell matrices and showed it to the other two. Mireille oohed. I am still working on spell matrices that are able to absorb and temporarily recreate the anti-demon aura. It's a lot harder than I thought. I could upgrade your familiars to special familiars. It comes with the demonic aura after a few levels. I spoke. As I recall, Lausanne did have a lesser version of the aura. It's not as strong as mine. They agreed, and so I upgraded it. For Mireille and Harris, it seemed the levels that the existing familiars carried over to the new star mana-powered familiars, and they unlocked the lesser demonic suppression aura instantly. For Gerard, this was the first time he received the familiar, but he didn't seem entirely surprised by it. Fascinating, isn't it? Harris said. Not bad. Gerard said. So, you said there's something you wanted to share. Gerard nodded and opened his bag. He took out a strange item. It resembled a really dried piece of wood. Yes, I also have a gift for Eon, actually. He placed the dried piece of wood on the table, and the moment I touched it, I felt a notification in my head. You've received a fragment of the ancient tree that was destroyed thousands of years ago. That very moment, I felt happy. It was a joy that came from the entirety of my network, like, all my trees felt happy to be touched by that fragment. I couldn't respond for a while, as I had to manage a rush of emotions that went through my head. Thoughts too. There are objects that can do this to me in the world. Is it because my grand mind tree still needed repairs? The three heroes waited for a while for my response, and they just talked among themselves. Eon? Harris asked. Gerard looked at Harris and Mireille, and then just sat down. It'll take a while. I gave this same thing to a few other spirits and they all froze. Or, didn't respond to me for at least a day. Maybe we can go have a drink first. The heroes chatted among themselves again, and then they left. You've analyzed the ancient tree's fragment. You gained a level. You are now level 154. Skill. Subsidiary tree upgraded. 200,000 trees. Skill. Wood shaping significantly upgraded. Then, I started to see visions. It felt like I was watching television, as scene after scene flickered before me. Memories of the ancient tree, engraved in its body. Like how a tree recorded what it suffered through in the rings of its trunk, the fragment contained its ancient memories. A vision. Vast expanse of forests, jungles. Sea. Monsters. Dragons. Humans. Elves. Small towns and some cities. Then a falling red star. Then it was an emotion. Not a scene, but a feeling of instability, of falling. Like I was pulled out by something, and then started falling. Then demons. Demons everywhere. I see visions of dragons. Then it ended, so very quickly. No more. I tried to access it again, but it felt like a teaser trailer that was too short. I accessed the shard again, but all it did was play the same scenes in repeat. I need more. I spoke to the three heroes, who were relaxing in Freshka. That feeling, like, I was robbed of knowledge, of knowing some but not enough. I needed more. I am afraid that's the last one I have. I've given out every shard I have to other tree spirits. You'll have to get it from them. Gerard shook his head. I didn't even know there was a tree spirit here, so I only kept one. How many did you have? How many have you given out? I asked, my entire being trying to hold back a sense of need and desperation that comes from the rest of me. Like, is this a kind of mind control? I need that grand mind tree repaired as soon as possible. I had 3. One to you, one to Lily's, and another one to the frozen tree in the Northern Isles. Lily's had 1. Maybe I can negotiate directly with Lily's for a loan. I don't really need to keep the fragment, just analyze it to get a more coherent picture of the past. Wait, why am I going down this train of thought again? Harris ribbed Gerard. So, wait. What were you trying to do? Oh, you know I've been going around making all sorts of herbal liqueur. I found that collecting those from ancient tree spirits, or powerful tree spirits, can produce a high-quality herbal liqueur with strong suppression qualities. So, I set out creating a blended herbal liqueur. I've collected about 7 tree spirit herbs, leaves and barks. Mireille just smacked her palm to her face. Oh, so all this just to fulfill your alcohol desires. Look, don't judge me and my hobbies. Harris has his harem, you have your ballroom and fancy Odone game politics, leave me as the hermit eccentric brewer of strange drinks. Gerard got quite defensive. I even gained levels with it. What? They both paused. I haven't gained a level since we fought the Demon King. The system's busted, we all know that. But it turned out you can actually gain levels from doing non-fighting things. That doesn't match my experience. Harris frowned. I've been clearing up large areas of land and all, not a single level. Mireille nodded too. Which class did you gain a level in? Your hero class, or something else? No, not hero. My master brewer class. Collecting unusual and rare items, and brewing with them did gain me levels. Anyway, Gerard shouted. Eon, right, I want your herbs, leaves and a bit of your bark. Fine. He gave me a level, that's fair, I suppose. I've made herbal drinks and tea all the time anyway. Herbal alcoholic drinks, well, I sort of mentally smacked myself there. Why didn't I think of that? Or wait, maybe the wineries did create herbal versions of the wine. But I want the other piece, the one with that frozen tree. Tell them it's a loan, you can return it to them after I am done analyzing them. Gerard seemed even more defensive. A gift given to a tree spirit is never asked back. I won't do that, I'll lose my supply of magical frozen herbal leaves. How do I negotiate this? Maybe I should do so directly. Then bring a small sapling of mine to it. Place it near to it. A small tree of prayer, a messenger from me. I would have to find a way to communicate with my other trees that are outside the network. Could I have roots that cross the ocean? But the chance to communicate with another tree spirit. That I can do. Gerard promised, and he looked at the small bag of leaves, bark and roots with great interest. He took a small piece of root out and smelled it. He licked a bit. The other 2 heroes looked at him and their faces were just plain disgusted. You lick your materials. I got to know how they taste. My tongue has a special skill, brewer's taste buds, which lets me know how well it'll go together with the rest of my brew. Don't worry, I'll clean it up. You guys don't know how hard it is to get an audience with tree spirits. So far, this tree fragment has been my most successful method to get new herbal materials. Where did you even get such a thing? I don't imagine you would end up checking every single fragment of wood you encounter. Harris asked. It was in a random abandoned temple on the Shafar coast of the western continent. I was led there by a druid who spoke of a dead religion of some kind, in my quest to find rare herbal ingredients for my herbal alcohol. At this point, I intervened. Never mind. Are there more? I took everything. Unless I missed it, which I could have because honestly I didn't pay those fragments much attention. They look like half-rotten wood, not exactly something my eyes are drawn to. Half-rotten wood. Let's change the topic. Mireille shrugged. Harris said Eon has some rather interesting weapons. It was then that Harris brought out some of the wooden spears and swords. Yes, these are the anti-demon weapons, and I am wondering if we, the 3 of us, together with Eon's wooden weapons as the chassis. I'd like to explore that possibility, together. Harris didn't mention this the last time we met, but heroic grade anti-demon weapons, but the thought of it makes sense. The weapons they create using the rare materials from this world are strong, but not specifically anti-demons. So, the three heroes spent days with me. I used wood forming magic to form wooden weapons infused with my anti-demon powers, and the three heroes added their enchantments. Later on, they formed the wooden weapons together with me. As I shaped the wood into its weapon shape, their star mana joined in and helped. It was a long process, but the heroes clearly fear for their lives. I could sense all three of them have lingering, deep-seated memories of their many battles with different demon kings, and it reflected the sudden focus they have. After 2 weeks, they all had wooden weapons they were satisfied with, but yet they still fear whether it is enough. As Mirai put it, they are summoner heroes, and yet the world forces them to still play the role of a combat-focused hero, so they had to resort to such preparations. We can't do this forever. Gerard looked at his curved wooden blade, infused with a mix of wood and heroic energy. He sounded a bit dejected. They left all the rejected ones behind for me, which are all incredibly powerful items in their own way, but just not to the level they need. I intend to later spend some time to further analyze them, and see whether I can use my own star mana to similar effects. No, we can't. But we must try. Age catches up to us, even if magic keeps us young for now. Killing the Demon King is just temporary. If there's some way we can just seal the Demon King, I wonder whether that would stop the Demon King from repeating. He said, and then he had a headache immediately. He quickly opened a gourd next to him, and drank from it. We can't even seal a Demon Walker. Mirai laughed. They left a few days after. Seal the Demon King. Would that actually stop the cycle? My prior year's effort to market myself as fresh land for refugees, unhappy nobles and all that brought a huge amount of people. There were fights, naturally, among refugees squabbling over the best spots, but the space was large enough that they dispersed over the 10 sectors. Even then, fighting was going to happen, and this time, I am staying out of it. I will work with whoever their chosen ruler and so long as they operate under my framework, I will leave them be. That's what a vassal is, right? This promise of unclaimed lands attracted all sorts of people. People who are unhappy with their existing rulers' tax regimes, or with insecure borders, or people on the run. Some just wanted to try out something else, and eventually, a few smaller settlements formed. Over time, many of these smaller villages and settlements will agglomerate and form into towns and cities proper, but that'll be over a few more years. Freshka too, located in what is considered the core region of the new land, experienced some influx of settlers. The promise of fertile lands, bountiful harvests blessed by a watchful tree spirit was attractive to some farmers. In each sector, after the migrants started coming in, I placed a tree of prayer, and a few giant attendant trees, which acted as their segment's focal points. Jura, and some of the followers, set up a new Valtrian order. And the Valtrian order's task, this time, is to recruit promising young children from all the 10 segments, to form my new reformed Valthorn initiates. Of course, for now, no recruitment has actually started. It's only the first year they are coming in. It'll start next year. But the plan and infrastructure is ready. By the end of the year, 5 of the 10 sectors have been settled, and on average, home to about 10,000 each, for a total of 50,000. There's a bit of gang wars and internal fighting, but nothing overt, yet. I probably should get someone to watch them, like Ivy. To keep watch of any high-risk individuals, and so, I created a new artificial soul. Jasmine. Not the princess, of course. During this year, I've also stretched my trees to reconnect with the verdant volcano and the southwest forests. I was relieved to discover they both survived, even if the area they covered had shrunk significantly. It seemed that the energy from the volcano and the ley line was strong enough to push back at the sludge, and it helped that they were quite far from the epicenter of the sludge than I was, so, lucky for them, the pressure from the sludge was weaker. Dimitri, which I lost connected to, was still alive, if not a bit insane. It went off in gibberish for a good 3 months, as I spent time repairing its internal structure. So, I was just glad to not have to start from scratch. Dimitri eventually recovered from his insanity, being disconnected from me for so long. I didn't allow him to speak for a long time, because he was just incoherent. The volcano crater and the forest rod survived, thankfully, but the sludge got as far as halfway up the volcano. So, with this, my soul forge's other abilities are restored, and my soul collectors are back in business. Chapter 86 Treeping. Year 114. A group of 5 mages came, selling some kind of service. For payment, They would help create spell formations around and on city walls, for use against monsters and demons. They were all quite high-leveled, around level 50 to 60, and they quickly met the Freshkin leaders. In their mind, every new town or city must have protective enchantments. They all are well-dressed, and clearly made good money making these enchantments for many towns, but they came to the wrong place. The new ruling body told them they are not interested, and they soon left to the rest of the smaller towns to ply their wares. That said, I was actually quite interested in defensive spell formations, and so when one of the new smaller villages actually coughed up a bit of money for a spell formation, my trees watched it intently. Simply put, I was trying to learn their defensive spell formations by observation. Clearly, if I could augment my defensive formations with magical spells, that'll make me even more tanky. Though, from what I could see using my spirit vision, the defensive spell formation is essentially a 5-part process. The first part is the power source. In the case of the small village, this is a set of mana stones they embed in the village head's home. The second is a set of runes or spells meant to extract power from that mana stone, and also an activation keystone. The third is the actual defensive spell, written into a formation of runes or stored in crystals matrices. Unlike the ones used by Harris, these crystals have the spell written into the crystal itself via physical carving of runes into the crystal, so that the spell memorized doesn't get forgotten. The fourth is the projection and casing of the crystals, such that they don't get accidentally knocked out, or trigger unnecessarily. So, there's a smaller set of items, usually metallic or wood, with some more runes, to protect the crystals from other triggers. There is also an item, in the case of the village, a wooden holder that points the crystal outwards, so that it projects the spell in the right direction. The fifth is a coherence and synchronization process, such that all the crystal matrices trigger at the same time, and respond to the same activation key. Of course, the mages were more than happy to explain the mumbo-jumbo to the clueless villagers, because they knew the villagers probably wouldn't remember it anyway, nor would they be able to reproduce it. One of the mages is more than happy to show off how smart he is as he explained the process of creating defensive formations to a bunch of young ladies. Maybe he would get laid that night, but I didn't care. Essentially, if I were to think about it, for me, it's entirely possible for me to use a magical ley line, or the volcano, or even myself, as the centerpiece of a magical defense formation. Or, use a vast field of tuberous storage, which stores mana, as a massive battery array. Then, using the mana from the tuberous storage, to power a huge set of magical runes, which supercharges my various shield generators to create far stronger wooden shields. Isn't it? Or if I could create star mana storage arrays, that would greatly work too, but from what I overheard, the extraction method from the storage would need to be compatible with the spell. Runes are sensitive things, and need to be written to the right size, and with the right types of mana. I should learn runic enchantments. No. A magical tree with runes. What could go wrong? Later, I spoke of this idea to Yvonne and Jura. Strangely, Yvonne was quite supportive. Then it hit me. It's a good idea, but I don't recall runes working on living beings. Runic carvings and symbols are usually on inanimate objects. Oh, but why? We did some research. Jura spoke to some surviving mages, and it seemed that runes needed to be fixed, in the sense that the shape, material and all need to be fixed. So, because living things grow and move, the runes on living skin or bark will change shape. In short, runes are like a language that somehow mana can understand, and interact with, but it has to be fixed. This concept was quite easy to understand. I imagine it as an integrated chipboard, where the shape and layout helped to produce a certain result. There's an energy source, and that energy source passes through a set of logic gates, and then out comes a result, as designed. These runes are quite similar to Wi-Fi or wireless emitters, and their specific shape, design and material allows it to absorb or release these mana waves. A specific runic shape therefore triggers an interaction with mana, which causes it to do certain things. So, now that the communication channels have returned, I insisted that we gather all the known runes from the world. If I could understand and use runes to make myself even stronger, I must do so. Aren't you concerned that your mana may interfere with the runes? Yvonne asked. True. But mana can be manipulated, and certainly I can shape it in such a way, so as to not interfere with each other. Taking the logic circuit concept a step further, surely there must be a way to isolate each rune's inputs and outputs such that they do not clash with each other. Jura and the Freshkin Council soon put out a request for rune-related books. A young mage was nominated to read the book to me, in Lausanne's place. Aries leveled up quite quickly, and she's now level 20, and she now had the ability to create a split body of herself, which I placed in the largest new town outside Freshka. Her service as a full-time babysitter is invaluable for parents who want to work the farm and all that. That's the angle we worked with, though she did have to hire some of the older folks to work with her in her nursery subsidiary tree. Unlike me, her limit is very low, and right now at level 20 she can only create one subsidiary. In a way it makes sense, since I did get my subsidiary tree level at maybe around level 80, so mine can make more parts. Now I can make tens of thousands. If she could make that many nursery trees she could definitely flood the market and put nannies out of business. Still, children are few, but at least people are giving birth to kids. Lofen, now that her daughter is not around, has more time to dedicate herself to the charity arm of the new Valtrian order. Again, to help support and provide social services, which are so formally lacking in this world. You never give up on that idea of orphan children as weapons of war, do you? Yvonne rebuked me one day as I discussed the idea with Lofen. That's why you're always out gathering young children, again. They have little attachments, and nothing to lose. They have everything to prove to the world, and they need protection. Training them to fight is only natural, and giving that path of serving as potential fighters is a benefit. I still think that isn't the best way forward. Fighters and mages are best when they have motivation and drive from deep within them. Some of these kids will get that, but most of them won't. Don't force them to fight if they don't really want to. Yvonne disagreed. I can tell from how they swing their weapons that they are here because it's the way to get fed. Then what system do you propose to replace this? Unless parents are willing to subject their children to extensive training, the odds of creating the Lausanne class warrior battle group is next to none. A recruitment event. Promise them things. Find those with a passion for what you do. In this world, it is often better to have one level 90 man than 100 level 50s. Everyone loves heroes, and aspire to be like them. So you want me to sell a dream, instead of training all these children who can't fend for themselves. Just give them basic training, but whether they want to move on to the next level, that depends on their passion, talent, and whether they really want it or not. They are children. I wouldn't force Roma to learn what he doesn't want to learn. What you are doing, even if these young impressionable children seem eager and willing, is forcing something on them, but they don't really know what they want. Wouldn't that postpone their growth? Why do you think so, Eon? Leveling is not limited by age. A teenager that goes through hardship in his teens can gain as many levels as a young child under 10. Starting late is in no way a bigger impediment. A big part of leveling is about our own understanding and comprehension, and is in no way slowed by starting late. Wouldn't a person who learned how to swordfight younger than an older man who just started be more skilled? Yes, but the older man's intellect and wisdom would have grown, and if he was the same level, he would catch up. In time, life experience contributes to level growth, not just starting from young. That makes no sense. Lausanne clearly gained and reached levels far faster. That was when Jura and one of the migrant scholars came into the training room. Lady Yvonne's explanation of the late bloomer leveling effect is fascinating, but it's still unclear which idea is right. Oh, pardon me, Eon. The idea of whether to start leveling young or leveling older is something that's quite contentious, though most still prefer to start leveling from a younger age. In Lady Yvonne's defense, her argument can be modified that it is better for a young child to level in a wider variety of levels, or in generic levels, and only specialize in a later age. True. Yvonne nodded. That's a good point. It's really about specialization, not whether a child should learn and level. But back to our earlier conversation, Eon. What I am trying to say is that a child may not know where his passions lie. I agree with training from young, but they should be exposed to a wider set of skills, and let them see where their heart takes them. Passion for a cause and a set of skills is important, and people are more likely to find it in their later ages, as their life experiences tell them where they fit best. Passion contributes to leveling speed, not just age. I am confused, but I take it that I will continue to train children, but only at a base level for a wider skill set, and then let them choose their own focus or specialization. Yes, I am not actually attempting to reinvent the wheel here. This is just a rehash of our common primary school education system, where the kids go shallow on a broad number of subjects and then go deep when they find something they like. Only, well, the curricular is more combat and survival focused, like combat training, basic magic assessment, farming, basic businesses. But Yvonne, now a training tree, quickly renamed herself, with a big signboard outside her tree. Vaughn Academy. Quite full of yourself to name it after yourself. I teased her. Akademivon. But at the same time, I am pretty sure my poor naming sense infected her. Or is it just a tree thing that trees aren't good with names? What? I am now a tree that focuses on training. The big training schools in the world all have big, well-known names, so I should have a name too. Naming aside, her job is to produce the future Lausanne-class warriors, and part of this is to recruit from the growing countryside. Because of that earlier discussion over late and young bloomers, she decided to accept disciples from all ages, though the training is age segregated for now. Jura, deciding that he didn't want to do much politicking, converted his role to an advisory, chairperson role in the Freshkin Council, and he introduced a centaur migrant to me later that day. You stand before Eon, our true guardian of the valley and the refresher of the rotted lands. Introduce yourself, Kavio. Refreshka. That's the next name if Freshka falls again. Wow. The centaur Kavio had never entered the sunken valley before, referred to now as the Valley of the Unrotten. So there really is a giant tree that survived the valley. Jura shrugged. Why do people even think we invented that story, in spite of all the evidence despite it? I mean, well, rumors. Kavio nodded. They tend to be massive, and because rumors are so common, the truth, if strange, becomes difficult to believe. Anyway, introduce yourself. Jura pointed to me. I am supposed to shout. No, I can hear you just fine. I spoke. He instantly stumbled, and for a centaur with 4 legs, well, he wasn't expecting it. Ah, I am sorry. I am Kavio, the newly elected leader of the Freshkin Council. I migrated here last year and I was told that the council is in need of new people to help. I've been told that all incoming leaders of the council should meet you. I just wasn't expecting it to be so. Massive. Jura smacked his head. I know he tried, and anyone with a half-decent intelligence network knows I exist. But still, there's a lot of ignorant people in the world. I mean, in a world of demons, you don't believe a giant tree exists. So, the intent of such a meeting is simple. I said. The valley exists because I do. My powers hold the demonic sludge at bay. It's important that any leader who enters the Freshkin Council is made fully aware of that my will is law, here. Kavio gulped. Jura smiled. I think he did say I needed to be more aggressive in what I say. Being too tree-like and passive meant everyone's going to try and get their way. The Freshkin Council's ability to govern is a delegation of authority. My authority. Is that clear, Council Leader Kavio? Yes. Good. Your audience was well noted. You may leave. There are more lands I must reclaim. Jura nodded, and they both left. But I listened to their conversation as they walked out of the sunken valley's tunnel. I am not really a leader, isn't it? Kavio asked Jura. Well, there's a reason why no one wanted the job and you got it. Your new job requires you to regularly meet Eon and advise him on what is happening. Key diplomatic and military decisions must be approved by Eon personally. Kavio smacked himself. No wonder none of the original survivors put themselves up for election. Jura smiled. Jura had the unfortunate task of being my spokesperson, and it's something few others actually want to do. So, do you still want the job? He paused, and sighed. I must. Good. Ian's not that bad once you get to know him. Really. I need to get myself some fear charms. Meanwhile, the expansion of the lands continued. With my improving control of mana and the increasing effectiveness of natural mana overwhelming, we've reclaimed more land. I estimate by now, I've reclaimed about 5% of the entire rotted lands, and that makes my domain far larger than Harris Country, which is 4% of the rotted lands. Of that land, some 200,000 migrants in total have begun resettling in the 10 segments, and slowly they are forming up into new towns. There's still no city proper yet, but I observed the presence of new guilds, new adventurers. The new villages and towns are given a choice, that if they contribute a certain number of bodies to the Valtrian order, which I will train into a proper military force, warbeetles will be stationed near the villages and protect them from monster attacks. But, if the citizens were to stray, on their own volition, into the protected forests, the monsters there will not hesitate to attack them. And there are no beetles to stop them. The protected forests are essentially my national parks, and the beetles only serve to mark the barrier. What happens inside is at their own risk. If they lose anyone, or if anyone is lost in the protected forests, they have to mount their own search party. For those villages who did not contribute headcount to the Valtrian Order militia, a levy is instead imposed, a tax on all income or produce, in exchange for protection. For newly set up villages that are still trying to get their industry growing, I gave them a 1-year to 2-year tax-free incentive period. Also, As I expanded, I eventually managed to breach past the southern part of the Rotted Lands, and I found that my subsidiary trees that are outside the Rotted Lands are all in hibernation mode. They are all sleeping, resembling ordinary trees. Once I reconnected them, I felt the entirety of my southern network return to life, including my Titan walker that's still covered in vines and leaves. I asked, using its way of communication. Greater than awe. Fellow tree. We are glad to see you live. Less than. I referred to the item that Gerard gave. He said one fragment was with lilies, and in my mind, I imagined myself that it'll be difficult to get it, and wondered what I could give to entice her. Greater than yes. We have. A memento of the tree that was, a time when we were few and tiny. Less than. A silence. Is Lily's going to reject me? Greater than certainly. Where should we send it to? A memento's value is a memory shared. Let us share them. Less than. Oh, wow. At that moment, I felt a root make contact with one of my subsidiary trees. In an instant, right in front of my main body, a small flower bulb emerged, and it gradually unfolded itself, revealing a wooden fragment. What kind of magic is that? Wait, it's like that teleporting ability that I have with my star mana. Lilies can do it too. It didn't reply, but my focus turned back on the fragment. Such a small fragment, but I knew its history there. So old, old. I greedily took it and started analyzing it. There's now 2 pieces. Then, I saw the vision again. It's the same. Dragons. Monsters. Dragon's sword, and they fought. Demons. They fought, and then a large demon appeared. It was massive, it resembled a demon king. The dragons fought the demons. Then the vision shifts. Giants of other kinds. Ice giants. Krakens. They fought the demons. And that's it. Fuck. I felt that greedy feeling again. I want more. I need that third piece. The 2 pieces floated in my biolab. You have gained a level. You are now level 155. Skill. Psychedelic dreams and therapeutic dreams upgraded. Skill. Hibernation significantly upgraded. Skill. Dream tutor upgraded. What? Me going on a vision trip upgraded my dreaming and sleeping ability. And wait, is that 4 skill upgrades with 1 level? How does that work? Chapter 87 Weapon Log. Year 115. The Demon King didn't come this year. The entire year though, the heroes were out and about attacking and fighting any demon walkers that appear. This time, they mostly resemble regular demons. No unusual demons. The large demon champion or demon walker class monsters were just giant upright demons with massive wings, massive claws that resembled something out of typical RPG games. It's a good thing, I think. Just regular demonic monsters that look demonic. As the heroes traveled the world to fight demons, they occasionally dropped by. This year, Harris managed to obtain another 15 spell matrices of very good quality, so the heroes now have 25 crystals, of which, I kept 4, so each of them have 21 crystals, with 3 charges each. 63 charges. These crystals are far superior to the ones used by the mages from last year that created the defensive matrices. They contain more runes, and various crystals meant to absorb a different aspect of a spell or ability's effects. It's through a combination of all the components within the spell matrices that they are able to store a wood shield that contains almost 90% of my real wood shield's power. It's impressive crafting, and something Harris paid a lot of good money for. I come here so often I probably should set a teleportation beacon here. If you want to set it up in Freshka. Not here. Of course. It's good that the message system is partly online. Even if it takes a bit of work. Thanks to extensive clearing of the demonic sludge, and the conversion of more hybrid trees into my network, I am able to suppress the effects of the magical interference, and so, message can now work, but it must be routed through the southern exits. Kind of like having to build telecommunication towers around an impassable mountain. Without Astra, the heroes no longer have a flexible teleportation system, so they are forced to use the teleportation system of the natives, which meant portal magic, like the one used by Madeus when I healed the princess. Harris was not a mage, so if he wanted to use portal magic, he had to use a beacon and a scroll. Something normal mages didn't, since they could manipulate the portal magic spell directly. Of course, this is a good lesson. Just like me, as a tree, there are some things I am naturally better at. Like offensive abilities, mine is very low, if not for all the other boosts I get. The class system, while it works to amplify certain skills, at higher levels is quite limiting. Why don't you take mage classes? Curious, I asked Harris. I already have 5 classes. Shield Hero, Warrior King, Weapon Master, Inquisitor and Master Trader. Don't some of those overlap? Why not remove it? I needed their offensive abilities to cover my defensive focused shield hero class, else I would be quite useless in the battle against the Demon King, and magic didn't synchronize well with my base hero class. Then the Trader class. My kingdom was poor when I started. The Master Trader skill gave my kingdom some financial boost. Oh, 5 classes for a human hero. You must be very high leveled. If I add everything up, I am almost level 220. But I think that's not how it works, because one hero level converts to about 4 to 5 normal class levels at the higher normal class levels, and if you divide it up using that principle, I am probably about level 140 or so. So your base hero is about level 120. Yes, about there. With 40 or so levels in King, and about 20 levels each in the other 3 classes. You haven't unlocked a domain. What's that? Nothing. In terms of pure hero levels, Gerard's the highest because he only traded away 10 hero levels for his 45 levels in Master Brewer. So his hero class level is 135. Embarrassing, isn't it, to think that Gerard the drunkard actually managed to keep most of his hero levels, and we too, the sane ones supposedly, traded more of our hero levels away. Harris said. He placed his cup on the table. Is this supposed to be some kind of classified information? I asked. Levels doesn't seem like something one should state out publicly. On the contrary, as king, it's in my interest to publicly state my levels. My levels help to encourage and convince the citizens of my ability to protect them, and the benefits that we have. Assassins are deterred by the fact that I am so high level that they don't even bother. But my children, well, they have reasons to keep their levels secret. They are going to fight each other. Harris sighed. I could use another pot of tea right now. Yes, everyone's jostling to be the next crown prince. I've already told them that the will explicitly states that the country is to be broken up should it fall. Isn't it better for it to be together? Honestly, yes, Harris said. But already I can see that my children are preparing for conflict should I not survive this next Demon King. Disgusting. Why do you not punish them? I can't. In the end, they are all my children, and what they are doing is building up their own group of supporters, and they have been clever enough not to actually start a fight. My spies tell me they've been goading and baiting each other to start an incident. The younger ones will suffer. I know, the lines are somewhat drawn by my wives. Honestly, I am not interested in his kingly drama. This is the kind of thing that China or Hong Kong ancient China period dramas are super fond of. Courtly dramas. It's going to be like the Warring States era. Oh, so all the children of the same mother band together. That's clever. How many wives do you have again? Harris frowned. 7. 7 splintered kingdoms. And how many kids? I think 29 now. 29 smaller districts split into 7 wives. You're absolutely insane. I mused. You aren't even being a good dad. Harris sighed. Look, I am not cut out for it, and my wives, they are so sexy. And hot. When they speak and tease me, I just can't help myself, and my wives refuse to take any contraceptives. They say it's a sin to not receive my seeds, and the way they say it is so sexy and hot, at that moment I just can't think. I am human too, and I need their care, their gentle touch, their pleasant, warm embrace. I am alone in this world, and they are the closest thing I have to my old family, and they are my new family. I feel their love is genuine, even if I am aware they are subtly manipulating me, and taking full advantage of my status as a hero. I just felt so sorry for Harris then. I used a vine and just poured another pot of tea for the poor guy being manipulated by his harem. But, it is an equal exchange, no. All human. I took one elf, one they call sand people, and yes, the rest humans. I prefer humans, but elves are sexy too. He's just thinking with his dick, isn't it? But then, the Demon King was defeated, he was at the age where his libido was bursting. He's not even 20, and no wonder he succumbed. Honestly, I am not even sure if that's all the women I spent time with. I only invited 7 into my harem as my consorts, but I may have had more than that. Before I even started the kingdom I already was kinda, fucking around. He's absolutely thinking with his dick. Well, now that you might die, your mistakes are now starting to act up. I wonder what your kids think about you, that have many wives. Harris laughed. That's a strange question from a tree of this world. Most people in this world are very accepting of a harem, and that question has never popped up. It is a medieval world where kings like to have many wives. Oops. Did I just outed myself? But my kids, well, they accept it. It's just the norm here. Maybe because heroes that survived in the past, many end up having harems too. Even the women, who keep an army of pretty boys around them. Harris finished his second cup of tea. Anyway, let's get to work. We made armor and shields. One of the ideas they had, if the crystal matrices were insufficient, was to make actual shields that are strong enough to take a few hits. Gerard and Mireille both are a little weak on defense, so Harris, being the guardian, with an army of summoned shield units, wanted to make real versions, using my enchanted anti-demon wood as the base. A mix of both heroic enchantments, star mana, and a dense, naturally anti-demon wood. Over a course of 2 weeks, we made 5 sets of enchanted wooden armor for each of the 3 heroes, and 10 shields for each of them. They would store them in their pocket space for later use. As payment, we also made 5 sets for myself, which I may someday award to any of my promising minions. Well, actually one set is already meant for Jura. I call these 5 sets, the Woodshield set. I've learned a lot from making these items with Harris. The heroes essentially get a special system bypass, since they get to use their mana to shape a certain item, just by thought, without needing much effort. They also have a special skill that all heroes get, called the Hero's Forge, which is used to make the special hero class weapons. It's kind of like some games where the heroes have the option to unlock upgrades and buy new equipment without actually having to go to a blacksmith or physical shop. The system handled those nitty-gritty stuff on their behalf. The rest of us plebeians just have to do it the old-fashioned way. But, observing how one of them used it constantly made me learn more about how the system did it, and I developed a better understanding behind the process of making their heroic weapons, and as a result, I got my skills upgraded. Skill: wood shaping significantly upgraded. Skill: subsidiary tree option expanded. Wood shaping workshop unlocked. I am not sure why Harris is quite amicable with me. Why couldn't I have such a relationship with Mila and Alexis? Where did I go wrong? Or was it them that did it wrong? They must be alive, right? I didn't get a notification. What have they been doing the past 20 years? I shifted my focus back on the hybrids, and the growing freshkins and freshlands. To me, they're segments 1 to 10, but each of them refer to themselves differently, and they have names that I felt too lazy to even remember. KVO2 came rather frequently to provide briefings. He's gradually getting used to the role, and to ease his mental state, I made a tree of prayers at the meeting place, and told him to present it as if he is talking to the smaller, much more peaceful looking tree of prayer instead. It's a mental crutch, because apparently his fear charms broke every other week. The regular updates are mainly for news, diplomatic activities, things that I can't see using my trees. Jasmine, Ivy's replacement, has been hard at work securing the border together with Trevor and Dimitri, and I made 3 more artificial souls to help oversee my massive territory. I named them Acacia, Brutus, Cypress, and their task as well, to monitor the new refugees, and ensure that the protected forests remain protected. How about some more beetles? Horns asked. We represent massive untapped potential, Master. Imagine it, an army of massive hero-level beetles. And I agreed. It's been too long since I made more subordinates, and now is the time for massive expansion. Exponential growth. Alright, I actually struggle with that concept. So I made 2 more artificial souls to accompany horns. I named them Bugsy and Thorax, and sent them out to gain levels. They need to fight monsters, demons, to hit their level caps, but Horns was just super eager to show off to his 2 new juniors. I think Horns is going to be quite useless in actual combat against the Demon King, since, well, they are too powerful. I need to think about activating my Titan Walker, preferably with a hero's soul. Maybe it's a good thing that Harris is close to me. If he somehow dies of old age, he'll get the soul. Oh, and lilies. I better check in with them. Greater than hold on to it. We do not need it. Less than. Greater than God's champions destroyed, a decade of slaughter. Still, the world recovers, and life finds a way. Less than. It didn't answer me. Seeing that I wasn't going anywhere with it, I went back to my own affairs. My attention is back on my large territory, and the hybrid trees. Within each protected forest there are patches of demonic hybrid trees. I am beginning to understand them, at least, their inner structure. In a way, imagine a natural tree that has to deal with an overabundance of oil, and part of its chemical reaction is to manage the oil surplus in the environment. Naturally, they may try to break down the oil, or burn the oil, or store the oil somewhere. The demonic tree reacts to the natural mana, air and water, and so it spends these natural mana the way it knows, which is to blow it up. In a greenhouse environment tailored to them, they are probably just as harmless as a normal tree. Something tries to make trees that are adapted to the environment. I suspect, maybe it's the spawning system. Perhaps there's a spawning god, whose main job is just to populate the world. Quite like playing a strategy game with randomly generated maps and enemies. In its logic, it tries to create something that suits the environment. Now it would be quite lame if this entire thing is just a game, no. Skill. Hybrid botany upgraded. Control over hybrid. Trees improved. Chapter 88 Floating Log. Year 116. The Demon King arrived. The heroes were ready. A battle was fought in the southern continent, far away. It was the Battle of Legends. The heroes fought valiantly, and after days of constant fighting, they won a hard-fought battle. The battlefield was ripped, the ground itself twisted by the magics. Demon King Nergal was slain. Or so the news goes. But on the very day the Demon King died, the heroes teleported to me. Eon. Gerard was frantic. He ran. All of us have been cursed by the Demon King's disease. Gerard looked extremely pale, and though he ran, I could see his spirit flickering, not a good sign by any measure. Mireille was awake, too, but she was flickering as well. Harris lost an arm and a leg, and he had a massive gash across his body, the armor that protected him half-charred and burnt. Mireille, too, lost both her legs, and two massive lightning elementals carried their master. In Harris' case, one of his summons supported him like a crutch. Gerard was the only one with his limbs intact, but he looked like big chunks of his skin was covered in pus. They all used their heroic magic to hold themselves together. A damned plague demon, Gerard said. And we don't have a healer. And you're a great healer, Harris said, coughing. I paused, and inwardly I took a deep breath. Fine. But my medical services will cost you. At that very moment, memories of exorbitant medical insurance bills flashed before my very eyes, but then, I am the hospital. I could probably earn a lot of valuable supplies from this endeavor. That was how I had 3 heroes in healing pods in my body. All of them suffered, and somehow, even though they lost their limbs on that very same day, the demon's plague touch meant it couldn't be regenerated. In normal cases where the cut occurred just recently, the soul hasn't forgotten its limbs, so it's possible to regenerate a limb. But this Demon King somehow inserted something into the soul that stopped that. I had to quickly intervene so that the limbs of their souls don't disintegrate. I also had to quickly use all the healing I have to gradually extract the demonic energy out. But this was a plague-focused Demon King, and its power here is not to be trifled with. It's almost like the Demon King, who received the bombardment of hex bombs, learned to use the disease-like power of hex. Adaptive demons. That's such a scary, scary thought. The 3 heroes rested in their pods for days, as I tried to lessen the effect of the wounds. Gerard, comparatively, had it easier than the rest. It was significantly easier to just cut off the sick part and then just regenerate it. Couldn't you cut off first too? Harris and Mireille both asked. In both your cases, the Demon King's damage is in the soul. Cutting it won't fix it. The corruption must be purged from the soul, then only the limbs will regenerate. Shit. Gerard, relieved to be the first to be discharged after a week in the pod, didn't leave yet. He stayed in the secret hideout and watched his 2 fellow Earthlings. We would have died if not for Harris Beacon. There was no way we could get anywhere with a good enough healer in time. Tough fight. I entertained him. Harris and Mireille, since the damage is a soul-level damage, had to go to sleep. I reckon they need something like my domain, Roots of Life, to actually fight back the Demon King's corruption. I had to use my soul forge to prevent decay of the soul's blueprint for their limbs. Yeah, it wasn't very physically tough to kill, but its use of gases, poisons and those gooey stuff meant we were all constantly taking damage. All our armors were destroyed. Gerard showed off his specially made anti-demon weapon. It's half rotten, as if somebody poured a fuckton of acid on it. At least it didn't detonate. Gerard nodded. That, too. I for one am relieved this Demon King didn't have a death bomb ability, just a death plague ability. Plague. Yeah, this game is rigged. Gerard took a deep breath. Will they die? As it is, no. They won't die. But they won't heal, either. I can keep them on suspended animation, or probably prevent further deterioration, but unless I find a way to overpower the Demon King's corruption, it won't actually heal. I wondered how those demonic cultists removed the Demon King's flames from my trunk so many years back. But then, that's just a physical everburning fire, not a soul-level damage. He breathed a sigh of relief. That's That's great. At least they live. When will they wake up? I've put them to sleep for the next few days. I'll inject them with food via my vines. You can get a drink if you'd like. He opened a magical holding bag, withdrew a really old looking wine, and some cups. Yeah. He sat there quietly and drank the wine for some time, and once he was done, he left for Freshka, and found accommodation in Freshka's many inns. Harris still needed constant medical care, as the demonic corruption and sickness was still in his soul. But physically, other than the lost limbs, he was fine. He still had only one leg and one hand, and I had Jura come in, and teach both Mirai and Harris how to use their familiars to create a wooden leg. I lost my hand until Eon healed it for me, but still, it's a useful ability to have. You need to first let your familiars take up the armor form, and got it. They both said, and were able to replicate it. To them, magic was easy, and the system aided them, and so they quickly understood what Jura wanted to do. Wow. Jura was impressed. It took him some time to learn how to do it. Heroes really are a different breed. But, even with the tree familiars acting like artificial legs and hands, the two couldn't leave very far. In Mirai's case, the Demon King's attack, one of it penetrated near her chest, so there's a swirling demonic corruption very close to the center of her soul, and it took a lot of my energy to just suppress it. This was quite different from what I expected. The Demon King's very own attacks possessed high-tier soul-damaging abilities meant it could potentially hurt me directly, even if I had extremely high anti-demon defenses, though, like the demonic curse, it may be possible to suppress with roots of life. Harris, feeling a bit better, though his limbs still burn in pain, sent a message to his subordinates and minions back home. I wondered if they are happy, or sad that their king lived. Perhaps, the kingdom will hold itself together for a bit more. Or, it may just mean the conflict that happens when all the kids are older will be more deadly and ferocious. We both can't leave this place. Harris said. He sat in the lounge area in the secret hideout. Even with my healing, I am only able to suppress it so that they can still afford some degree of freedom, but left unattended, it would flare up within a week. We could teleport there and back. Mirai said. I can't run my kingdom like this. Harris complained, and he had a lot of concerns. I would have to delegate my role. Mirai just laughed at her friend. Good. Finally you have to bite the bullet and cut the damned cake. Hand over power, and ensure that they don't fight each other before you die is the best thing you can do as a father, Harris. This medical issue is the best thing that have ever happened to your kingdom. Harris seemed reluctant to face the problem. It reminded me of myself, and damn, that hurt. I too hesitate far too much when faced with problems. Eon, any chance you can remotely heal me from my capital? No. Truth was, there really wasn't. The kind of mana and energy needed to suppress the Demon King's curse on their bodies was something I have only here, and it needed the presence of my main body's energies. Mirai was cheerful, even though her condition was the worst of the three, because of the curse close to her soul spring. She took some time to enjoy herself in Freshka, and went for long walks. As a hero, her powers meant she could still move around very quickly. Want you miss your pretty boys? Harris laughed. Mirai just shrugged. That was my hobby a few decades ago, I moved on now. How often do we talk about it anyway? To be fair, even though she's now in her mid-40s, she still looked really fit and youthful, due to the influence of heroic magic. Heroes, I reckon, if they survive, would probably like till 200s, just like the humans that practice magic. Then what do you spend time on? Like what most typical ladies do. Good food, tea time, good cakes and cookies, and fashion. Mirai laughed. All I have to do now is move my entire operation here. Oh, you can't move a kingdom. Mirai ribbed him. So, let it go, Harris. It's better to let your many children have their thrones now, at least you can watch and advise them. After days of discussion, eventually Harris succumbed to Mirai's idea. Anyway, now that I am their healer, and essentially their lives on my hands, I've started to demand for more things as compensation for my healing services. Like gems. A lot of them. So, this finally allowed me to repair my grand mind tree. With that, I felt a return of more statistics and numbers to my mind, and it checked my thoughts for the presence of external influences. So, my Rotted Lands expansion continued, and we claimed more areas. So, after a good amount of area was reclaimed, I opened up segments 11 to 15 for new refugees and migrants. There were some areas I've set aside as hybrid tree parks, where these are the hybrid plants that I've gained control over. I reckon some of these new refugees will be surprised by it, but I decided to let it be. You guys seriously didn't find anything that was the source of the corruption? I asked Harris about the crystal that they destroyed a few years back. Harris probably was quite surprised that only now I spoke about it, since, well, we had that discussion many years ago. No. We were honestly just looking for our fellow heroes. After we destroyed the crystals and got the notification, we just stopped. Is there a source of all these corruption? I wondered to myself. It may be possible, if my understanding of the hybrid botany improves, to trace its energy source through the roots of these hybrid demon plants. It must come from somewhere. But it's something I fear to do. If it is the abyss I am looking into, it may well look into me as well. Would I end up like Zeratul, accidentally revealing the location of the homeworld to the demons? I immediately set the Grand Mind Tree to act as an antivirus and firewall, to block out any attempted intrusions into my mind. Alexis had already revealed plenty to the demons, when she was trapped in the fire demon mode, or so did Simone and Victor. I am home. Lausanne returned after years of traveling. She gave Lofen a hug. It was pretty much the first thing she did. You've been away for very long. Lofen looked at her growing daughter. How was it? They had lunch together. Oh, I've been to all the continents. I fought lots of monsters and creatures. That's good. Did you find anything, or anyone? Lausanne nodded shyly. Yes. That's part of why I came back, Mom. Oh, I joined an adventurer team when I was in the continents. And I traveled with them for a few years. And Lofen had the look of an expecting mom. Like, come on, drop the bomb already. I am thinking of getting married to him. My captain. Lofen nodded knowingly. So, is he here? Did he come? Yes. He's like, in the inn. I wanted to just, tell you about him first, before you meet him. Don't be silly. I was expecting this to happen. No young elven girl goes traveling around the world for almost 7 to 8 years and does not find someone to fall in love with. Lofen smiled and gave her daughter a knowing look. So, you're here to invite me to the wedding, I suppose. Yeah, Lausanne said shyly. In my mind, well, that escalated quickly. She's just a kid, then a teen, and now she's getting married. If I was human, I'd probably need to take some time off and accept this. Like, wow, time sure moves quickly, and it's even more pronounced when I see all these other people moving on with their lives. I feel lonely. At that moment, I could feel a sense of warmth and belonging from all my fellow trees, like they were trying to comfort me. Grand Mind Tree has intercepted attempted influence from trees. The following message was deleted. We are one, we trees are all one. Yeah, a tree's forever alone. All these other trees in the forest, but I am still just me. Chapter 89 Traditions. Year 117. This way. Jura led them into the tunnels. 15 of them, young teenagers who've trained for a year or two. In another world, they'd be school-going teenagers, but here, they are warriors, rangers, mages, druids or knights, ready to face monsters to the death. This way, one of the young mage asked. He held up his staff, and the crystal glowed in the darkness of the tunnel. It was one of the many root tunnels that lead to the Valley of the Unrodden. They've never been here. After all, access to this area is restricted to the heroes, Jura, Lofen, Kavio, and a few others of the new priesthood, who escorted the dead bodies to their burial grounds in the valley. Yes, Jura pointed. They walked past a bunch of beetle guards. They stood, a little surprised to see the unmoving beetles. Your promotion awaits. Come. The 15 nodded. They knew this was it. The moment many have been waiting for. They soon saw the faint light at the end of the tunnel, and they soon stood at the entrance of the Valley of the Unrodden. The valley now is home to very few people, so giant attendant trees, many of them on fire scattered throughout the valley, were the main source of light. There's still one small airwell at the top, above my main tree. The valley glowed with the orange fire. The trees here survived mainly on the nutrition and energy I feed them. Herbs and flowers are everywhere, and then there's the small stream of black fires, the suppressed energies of the demonic corruption. The excess corrupting energy gathered here, to be processed by my main body and the trees. Their path was made of wood, hardened from the roots that covered everywhere, and flanked by wooden statues. I made them, as practice. My surplus wooden weapons, and the large anti-demon bolts were also used as fencing, since I had little place to store them. They soon passed a field of olives, fruits, and a mix of other crops I have cultivated in small quantities. Remnants of the earlier era when the survivors still lived in the valley. Old buildings, that look like they've seen some years. And ghosts. Soul harvesters and nightmare harvesters. Here in the valley, where they are closest to me, they are easily visible to anyone with the slightest affinity to magic. They resembled giant shrouds, and they floated everywhere. Some of them felt fear. Haunted forest. Jura tapped them on their back. Don't embarrass yourself. Eons watching. A test for the young Valthorns, to receive their familiars. In many ways, this was actually a ritual, more than an actual test. The walk to the Valley of the Unrodden, and to see the origins of their institution. A beetle would occasionally run across their backs, and they would turn, startled. The rangers especially, with their bow and arrows. Eventually, they arrived at where Cavio gave his briefing. A small round area flanked by tall trees, with a small tree of prayer in the middle. There's also a pedestal, where they can stand to see my main tree. Well, we're here. Stand on the pedestal, and receive your familiar. A ritual. It's a silly thing. I could just as easily give them their familiar when they are sleeping in their rooms back in Fresca. But given easily, they would not know the weight and value of what is given, and they are young, impressionable teens. A part of me felt it was important that the weight of the responsibility is made clear. So a ritual it is. A walk to the Valley of the Unrodden. To see where the survivors lived, and meet the protector of the valley. How could one receive the familiar without ever knowing what gives you your familiar? The 15 teens break down in different ways when they receive their familiar contracts. They've never been here. One cup appeared for all 15 of them, and each of the tall trees that flanked the tree of prayers revealed a pod. Time to drink. Jura instructed. Finish it and enter into the pods. Tree sap, mystical dreams, dream tutor. A dream is just a dream, or it can be more. For these 15 young teens who've accepted their familiar contract, I've given them a dream of what the familiars can do, like a tutorial. At the same time, it's also a message. Familiars have served many masters over the century. Many have died with their familiars, and I felt it was important to drill in the fact that familiars, though useful, it ultimately is up to them to make the full use of it. Again, with power comes responsibility. But also, with responsibility comes power. After about 3 hours in the pod, they all emerged a little dazed, and Jura led them back to Fresca. I wondered about my methods. It's probably a little too big brother. What I did with dreams, maybe in another world, it would reek of a government re-education camp. Back in Fresca, how'd they take it? Yvonne asked Jura after the kids were back. They're quiet. I think they'll be okay. Jura nodded. It's been a long day. He had a large cold tea mixed with a bit of lemon and ginger for refreshments. I wished I could be there. Yvonne sighed. My form restricts me no further than 10 feet out of that door. Again, heroes are unique like that. Era's ability to split her body into multiple nursery trees is special to her class, and Yvonne too, can split her body into each of the training trees she is in. Right now, she could have 3 training trees. Just talk to them when you see them. I think they all need a bit of sleep after what they've seen. Yvonne frowned with her wooden form. She's been their trainer for some time now, and she's about level 40 as a training tree. Naturally, she cared for her students. I hope Eon didn't give them the dreams of brutal warfare. Of all the kinds of dreams I can give a person, the dreams of the brutality of war were apparently the scariest. It's the dream where they were placed in a massive battlefield and everyone around them were killed and mutilated in different ways, and all they could do was run, flee, feel pain and scream. I think he didn't. They didn't look that horrified. I see. Yvonne said, but she was not convinced. Dash. The new Valthorns recruited from all over the Freshlands, from all of the small villages and towns, to the few growing cities. Politics was messy, and Freshkin was like the federal government. Squabbling with the cities and towns, whom functioned like municipal and state governments. Cavio, the elected chief, had the difficult task of managing the loose federation, and he had to frequently rely on the strength of the beetles to make his point. Fighting eventually broke out between 2 cities. To the refugees, I am but a distant, faraway image. In the minds of the city's quasi-independent rulers, they did not believe I would impose my authority, until I did. 100,000 beetles descended on the 2 cities, along with the Valtrians' men. The size and massive show of force meant the 2 cities surrendered quickly, and those responsible quickly captured. Both leaders and those we found to be involved were publicly judged in accordance with the founding constitution of Fresca. Defiance against their delegated authority was death. A root spear through the heart. Gruesome, but a statement. It was a statement I had to make. I had already foreseen my power to be challenged every few years, as the people do not believe what they do not see. This was my experience from New Frika. The law is meaningless until enforced. In the medieval times, order was established through force and fear. So, for a time, Kavio found his job as the chief mediator of the various segments easier. A job Jura did not want to do, because he saw how different the scale of things were. It's a difficult task for one person, and so it had to change. It is ironic, I suppose. When I remember Frika itself suffering because their king then demanded a draft, and was punished for not complying. And now, I do what the king's men did. I can only hope that I meted out these punishments justly, instead of randomly like the soldiers of Salah. Soon, the Freshkin Council had to be expanded into something resembling a parliamentary or congressional system. Each city and district would send a representative, and those representatives together would elect a segment leader, for a total of 15 segment leaders. One for each segment. All of the segment leaders were given an audience with me. Again, a ritual. Just as how monarchs of my world had coronation ceremonies, or how religious orders had complex conclaves, I saw it fit to drill the weight of my authority, and that these men are delegates. That the constitution of this land has its weight and power derived from me, and it was important to drill in that it is a delegation of power. Perhaps I am a bit too power crazy. I wondered that for a moment. But this is a world of power and conflict. A world where higher leveled will not hesitate to have their way, and sometimes I think, maybe all this power is too much for one person. Then I recall their stupid conflicts, and all my concerns faded away. Not everything from our world can be transplanted over. The 15 were brought to the Valley of the Unrodden, and unlike the young Valthorns, I gave them a different drink. I gave them visions of the past. The lives I've taken. The foes I've slain. The destruction of the valleys in the hand of the demons. The burning of Frika. The corruption of the demons. The haunting screams of the dead. Wars. The 15 came out, they held their feelings in. Kavio escorted them back to Freshka, where a comfortable inn awaited. But a message is made, and these representatives now understand their place. Dash. You will outlive him, Lausanne. Lofen held her daughter's hand one day, they sat in a cafe in Freshka. I know. It is something I thought of, and you need not counsel me otherwise. I didn't mean to. Not when your wedding is tomorrow. I outlived your dad too, even though we were both elves. Lofen said. She sipped on a cup of coffee, a newly imported delicacy. Our long lives means little, when the world is so cruel to us. Few survive till their hundreds, like Grandma Cassern. I never met her. You have, but you were just a baby. Lofen smiled, and she tapped her daughter's smooth palm. A human might think these two were good friends, or perhaps sisters, since elven aging slowed down dramatically once one reached adulthood. Maybe, except an elf would notice the faint lines around the eyes, or the faint, aging colors of her hair. Are you ready for tomorrow? Yeah, I already went through one. I don't think our Ionic wedding is going to be more challenging than the Hawa-styled ceremony. For Lausanne, she held two ceremonies, one, a Hawa-styled one in accordance with the Eastern Gaia Temple's traditions, on the Eastern continent. It's meant for her husband's extended family, and the need to travel from one continent to another meant it took a whole year to get both of her events sorted out. Good. The next day, a ceremony was held at the Freshka's Valtrian prayer courtyard. It's an entirely new city, so we had space. I, together with some of the surviving priests, had designed this large park in the temple-style courtyard, where there's multiple tree of prayers, so different ceremonies can be held simultaneously. It's also where I designated one of my many tree eyes, so here, the trees take on different colors every season. I remembered the verdant flower patches of home, the colors of fall, and spring, and winter, and had it recreated with the local plants. So, it's a lovely place, a wedding in a garden, but still in a temple. An earthling may vaguely tell the influences of Asian gardens and temples, and even the vast courtyards of many historical sites in the West. Lausanne and her husband stood before a tree of prayer, with light pink leaves. It's a garden of many colors, the couple wear a ceremonial dress and shirt. A ritual, for a wedding. In a world of systems, rituals are also a means of communicating with the system. Weddings, burials, all act to inform the system of change in status. For married couples, it is not unusual for them to receive a temporary blessing immediately after the wedding. There was a small pedestal, and on it were two small pieces of wood. It's smooth, except for one part where it has a thorn, and they both prick their fingers on it, a drop of blood on both pieces of wood. The wood absorbed the blood, made into a necklace with a bit of magic, and the two would exchange necklaces. A wooden necklace of the two's blood. It's a relatively new process, adapted from the practices of nearby nations. After all, Ancient traditions are oft forgotten, and so new ones must take their place. Jura said quietly. A generation to the next. Doesn't that only happen when Lozan actually has a baby? Lofen grinned. She's clearly happy to see her daughter find a husband. Well, are you pressuring them? Jura smiled. Maybe not in the next few years. That's a yes. Well, in Elven terms, a few years is very short. So eager to see a grandchild. Lofen grinned. Dash. There was another event that happened during the year, and one with greater geopolitical impact on the continent. The great dissolution of Harris' empire into the 7 queenly states of his 7 wives. Harris had set up a teleportation beacon, all of his wives and children came to Freshka. He used the tremendous funds he had at his disposal, to construct a vast veranda on the outskirts of Freshka, and where a treaty would be signed. The Treaty of Freshka. If it was up to me, I'd totally call it Treaty of Freshka, but oh well. Maybe a future treaty will enjoy that treatment. Harris declared the royal capital his personal imperial holdings, and essentially, delegated the management of his empire into 7 parts, each under one of his wives, turning them into queens, and then, his now 30 children, each princes or princesses of their own regions. Armies, budgets, artifacts and magical items, all divided into 7 parts, and any undividable parts are to be held by him personally. Of course, this won't be ideal. But Mireille was right, it is better that the separation lines be drawn now, than later. At least he lived to mediate any conflict. The signing was held. Everyone was present, even neighboring royalty. 7 new queens, and a period of armistice. A big party was held, and the emperor himself, Harris, gave a long speech explaining that he had hoped for a peaceful transition of power to the 7 wives and their children. Jasmine, my spy-in-chief, quickly made me listen in to some of the politicians, and some of the royals. It's insanity. No. Has the emperor gone mad, to break up his own empire this way? The other nations will sure take the chance to bite. It's a hero's naivety, perhaps. Another delegate explained. Heroes have made very strange choices in the past, it seemed Emperor Harris is no different. Still, this is a wonderful opportunity for us. Which queen do you think will be easier to convince? I reckon we should speak to each of the young princes and princesses, eager to show off their chops. We could give them some winning chips, but trap them into our influence. Trade and wealth is the way forward, with the Emperor's summons still around to maintain peace. Though Harris is unable to depart for long, his army of summons still roam his empire. No nation is foolish enough to fight the summoned armies of the hero, their strength in combat is legendary. A long-term investment, at least, until the next Demon King. A tough decision, honestly. The delegate said. This dissolved 7 queendoms will surely fight the moment the emperor falls in battle with the next Demon King, but then, if he cannot leave this place, surely the Demon King will come here. A look of horror on the other delegate. Oh, that would be bad. We may not be able to retain our investment if the next Demon King targets this continent. Perhaps that is a question we should ask the emperor. What are his plans for the next Demon King? And so, as Harris socialized with the rest of his children and wives, one of them asked. Your Majesty, what's your plan for the next Demon King? With your condition, would you lead the fight with the next Demon King? Harris smiled. Well, though our condition generally requires us to remain close to Eon's healing powers, I foresee it's not a problem for the 3 of us to fight the next Demon King. A set of teleportation beacons, and we'd be fighting the Demon King, and then back. We are also working on an alternative, should that day come, but it is not something I can reveal. If there was a metaphorical moment when everyone was taking notes, that was it. I could sense a flood of magical messages outward, and I am damn sure Harris and Mireille could too. They are heroes, and they have innate magical sense. But he just smiled, and let it happen. Eventually, the ceremony ended, an empire officially broken up. Harris let everyone choose whether they wanted to enjoy the comforts of Freshka, or they wanted to go back. All of them went back, and surely, Harris himself predicted a torrent of planning and politicking. That night, he met Mireille for a drink. You left early. I didn't want to steal your thunder. It's your event, Harris. No need for 2 heroes in the same event. Hey, I still tire of such politics, even when I have levels for it. You lasted the whole day, I'd say your levels did their job. Mireille smiled. How does it feel, a weight off your shoulders? A bit. At the same time, I fear I may have laid the foundations for a civil war. You could use this time to make more magical enchantments, such that if war ever breaks out, the magical enchantments will stop it. You know there are magics that do that. It's inevitable. Indeed. Ever regret sticking your thing into so many places? Sometimes. Harris sighed, and he got drunk on herbal liqueur that night. All the time, you mean? Mireille laughed. Chapter 90 Spring Leaves. Year 118. Mireille's condition deteriorated, despite my best efforts to heal her. A part of me feels conflicted about it. If she dies, I get a Titan soul. If she doesn't, well, one more hero to fight the Demon King. I am going to die, isn't it? She asked. Why is she deteriorating? Harris asked. It didn't make sense to him, and it didn't make sense to me either, but somehow, she just deteriorated like a sudden relapse. I spent months looking into her body, and I kept trying to suppress the Demon King's curse, but it's weird. It's able to break through whatever my means of suppression and create new curses. If she deteriorates, you might too. I told Harris. I am trying, but I don't know why it behaves this way. It hurts, Mireille said, while she sobbed. The pain she felt was intense, and it was throughout her body. She described it like she was being roasted alive. Some days, Mireille was absolutely delirious and she just kept screaming, shouting, and struggling, as the pain possessed her. Can't you sedate her or something? Harris said, upset at his screaming, semi-conscious friend. Really? Do I have permission? Mireille herself shouted. Yes. Do it. Just knock me out. She's a hero. Status effect resistance is the norm for heroes above level 100. My attempted sleep drug wasn't strong enough to have any effect. Not working. I need to overcome your natural hero resistance. How? She screamed. She yelled. I tried more things. Injected sleeping pills. Didn't work. I don't get it. Gerard, who was also around. Why doesn't it work? Maybe she must want to sleep herself. Harris said. I mean, her body must let Eons drug do its thing. Oh, you mean like my alcoholism? Gerard said. Mireille, try to disable or suppress your hero status. You can do that by thinking about your hero class and then think about turning it off. Harris glared at Gerard. You can do that. I don't recommend it to everyone. Gerard shrugged. Mireille's screaming was blocked by the panel. Is that a good idea? I asked. It's entirely possible her hero class is what's helping to delay and suppress the demonic curse. The two heroes nodded. True. Didn't consider that. Mireille continued to scream for days, my attempts at suppressing her pain or putting her to sleep not working. But, she really needed sleep, and yet her body's pain doesn't let her. This is just cruel, Harris said. I never imagined our hero's resistance to status ailments would sabotage us in this way. It's really this cliff effect, where the hero's resistance of status ailments does not prevent a demon king's curse, and yet it prevents all attempts of suppressing the symptoms of the curse. It's partly your level. I remember being able to put Mila to sleep, but then, she was a lot lower level at that time. What? The effects of the hero's natural resistance to afflictions is correlated to the level. The higher your level, the stronger your natural resistance. She can't give away her levels, we need her for the Demon King. Harris complained. Gerard just stared at his fellow hero. Is her life more important, or the Demon King is more important? Gerard asked. No. That's not what I meant. It sounded quite like what I think you meant. Now's not the time to argue. Let me see what I can do to put her out of her misery. Get me the strongest painkillers and sleeping potions and items in the world. My own sleeping and pain suppression abilities are not strong enough, but together with the world's best items, maybe I can still do something. The two heroes did so. Mainly Gerard, since he's free to travel. Harris' condition had to be monitored, his condition may suddenly deteriorate too. They acted quickly, and within days I had all kinds of strange medicines and ointments from all over the world. Such is the power of heroes to mobilize their immense financial resources. And we attempted to use each and every of those ointments. Apparently, the sleep status, unless internally done, is viewed as a status ailment. Surely, there's a way to trigger sleep, even if her body is in pain. The body naturally sleeps. That's a fact, and the hero system doesn't intervene with that. Yet, all these inbound influences that attempt to put her to sleep does not work. So, logically, if I could somehow fake the system to think that I am natural, wouldn't that work? I am a tree with a nature domain. If I can't do it, who else can? Days of struggling. Weeks. There are days when the pain somehow becomes more tolerable, when the demonic curse somehow subsides. Perhaps it is the alignment of the stars, but I could totally relate to Mireille's pain. After all, I too went through something quite similar. If she could somehow gain levels to be level 150, would heroes gain a domain too? Wouldn't that mean they become even more overpowered if they get their heroic divine blessings, and a domain? I tried all my healing and sleep skills. From suspended animation, to mystical dreams, to even trying to use hibernate on her, but nothing worked. The heroes tried using their own heroic energy to help suppress the demonic curse, but somehow it just made it worse, so they had to stop. They cursed, and wondered how the Demon King managed to create a curse of this strength and persistence. They left again, and went to look for other kinds of cure. Gerard, it seemed, tried to go visit other healers and spirits. Greater than no less than. Ah, how? I mean, is there a way for a doctor to reach to the soul and just turn off the hero class for a while? Like general anesthesia or something? Lilies paused. They replied to me a week later. Greater than the system has the power. Less than. Well, no shit. The system gave us the power of levels, pretty damn sure it has the power to remove it too. Greater than such power is beyond mortals. Less than. Well, thank you for telling me nothing. I'll have to find some other way. Dash. Mireille would have days where the pain subsided, and I would do extensive tests. Some days, the demonic curse just shrinks by itself. Its behavior was erratic and annoying. I didn't understand why a curse didn't behave consistently. So I wondered whether it's outside interference, like maybe something is remotely controlling the curse. Could I form a magical barrier? I have shield abilities, but do they work with demonic curse? Entanglement. I mean, I guess if the hero's magical transmission towers are somehow intertwined with each other without any obvious connection, that does suggest that a curse that is intertwined magically to something else is possible. So I tried just that. Layers on layers of magical barriers. It did nothing. Maybe the type of barriers wasn't right. She yelled and screamed every now and then. It reminded me of a mental ward, where some people just couldn't control their own mental state and frequently descend into shouting fits. Is this one of those? Frustrated, I took Mireille to the soul forge within my body. I wanted to try to use my soul forge powers to temporarily suspend the effects of her hero class. Maybe I could then put her to sleep. So, with the power of the soul forge, I examined her body again. At first, everything seemed the same. Her soul spring was there. There were two massive vases that poured sparking star mana into her spring. The spring is massive and it's large, and there are large chunks of it that resemble white marble. The curse was there too. Right next to the spring, a massive swirling black pool of stuff. The swirling curse was fenced up by little bushes, which I think is the result of my various healing abilities. What powered this curse? I used my soul forge, as I did before, to try and suppress the curse, but it did nothing. It's already fenced up. Was it something else? There was nothing else in here, in this inner body of hers. All, except the spring. So, I went back to my earlier idea. Could I turn off the hero ability temporarily? To do so, I attempted to reach for the spring, and nothing happened. With the power of the soul forge, I pushed at the spring itself. It creaked, but didn't do much. Then I pulled. In a way, the entire spring is made of blocks, kind of like large Legos stacked on one another to form a spring. Each of them represents a skill, or a class. It was then I saw it briefly. A small black thing. Something hidden in between the blocks. Then the blocks pulled themselves back together. Kind of like magnets snapping back once you let go. There's something in your soul spring. I told Mireille, Harris and Gerard the bad news. I don't know when it got in there, but I am guessing it's the cause of your pain. They didn't understand the concept of a soul spring, of course. It probably felt like a young child listening to a doctor going about medical jargons. So I had to explain in detail what I was doing, and described what I saw. They got it rather quickly. One of them described it like, oh, it's like Naruto. That Shikigami thing that pulled out the snake guy's soul and chopped his arms off. So even if he had arms, he didn't have arms, right? Yes. Cool. So, now we know that in her soul, that's something that's living inside the central key part of her soul. That central part is tied to all our levels, our mana and stuff, right? Yes. What if we give you more power? You can't move it with your power. But you have two heroes here. Me and Harris. We're both heroes who have star mana, and star mana's like crazy juice. Could it work? Gerard asked. I thought about it for a moment, and I supposed it was worth trying. The star mana didn't do much in suppressing the curse, because well, it was already suppressed. That made sense in many ways now. We were targeting the wrong source. I don't know, but it is worth trying. We'll need both of you in the pods. I wrapped their bodies with so many vines and branches. Simply because star mana is immensely powerful, and I am not sure regular vines by themselves can draw their mana. Then, I started the Soul Forge again, and telepathically gave them the signal to start the star mana transfer. The overwhelming quantities of star mana. These heroes easily have 100 times of my star mana, each. As it flooded through my body and into the Soul Forge, I had to quickly increase the quantity of vines, so much so it essentially wrapped them up entirely. Then, with their star mana and all my power, I pulled at Mirei's soul spring again. It felt amazing. I felt like I was working with a small hammer before this, and now I am given a massive excavator. So much power. I pulled, and indeed, the soul spring started to come apart. Piece by piece was dismantled, and then I saw it. A large, entirely black piece of rock. Rotten, and festering right in the soul spring itself. When did it get here? I have no idea. But with their power, I pulled it out. Mirei was in intense quantities of pain. Pulling apart one's soul spring is like ripping through their very core. I sensed all her readings and measurements shoot through the roof, and if she could scream, she would have screamed and fainted. I flooded her with all the sleep powers I have. Mystical dreams, psychedelic dreams, suspended animation, tree sap, sleep. Everything. I threw everything into her body, hoping it worked this time. And it did. The soul spring was broken, so the hero class could not play its part. I then added more pain relief and pain suppression tree saps. She quickly calmed down, and entered into sleep. A black piece of rock stood before me. It oozed a blackish liquid. What in the fuck is this thing? My inspection just went. I decided to just destroy it then. I hit it with all my borrowed might. A massive root. It cracked, and broke, and turned to small black ash. Then it disappeared. Mirei's soul spring was still broken. I had to start repairing it. My star mana's running out. The two heroes telepathically communicated. I used too much to destroy the thing. Is Mirei alive? Yes, but let me do some basic repairs. I tried to put her soul spring back together. I could move the lesser pieces, those that did not look like white marble. But the hero pieces, I couldn't budge them at all, unless I had their star mana. My mana's out, Harris said. Fine, let's stop here. The two heroes came out, absolutely exhausted. I've never had so much star mana used up except when we fought the Demon King. It's only expected, isn't it? Altering one's soul is such a difficult thing, especially a hero's soul. Mirei was in the longest, deepest sleep in a long time. She was in a dream. I could sense it. A long, long dream. I think I detected that she cried at parts. The two heroes needed a few days to replenish their star mana before we could get back to repairing Mirei's soul spring. I had, in the meantime, did all the other pieces, and with each piece her condition recovered. But throughout these few days, she just slept and dreamed. The heroes said that their star mana used to refill a lot faster. When they fought the first Demon King, all they needed was a 4-hour nap and they were good to fight again. These days, a few days was the minimum. They claim it's the downgraded blessings. We got to work, and again, with their star mana, I've finally managed to put everything back together. Without that one piece that rotted. Done. I jolt Mirei out of her dreams. When she woke up, she screamed briefly, then cried for an hour. Then she gave Harris and Gerard both a hug. Mirei, are you alright? No. What? It didn't work. Whatever you all did, it worked. I am not in pain anymore. Mirei said. But I am not alright. Not anymore. What do you mean? I saw home. Home. Earth. Mirei said. I dreamed of Earth, but it was so real, so vivid. I was back in school again. Friends. Our family. I could remember all their names and faces again. Gerard and Harris looked at each other. We've known for a while that the gods suppress our memories of home. But during that long sleep, all I dreamed of was home. Eon, what did you do? I put you into a dream state, but I have little input on what actually happens other than the type of dreams. I gave you a pleasant one. Mirei bowed briefly. Thank you, Eon. I needed that reminder of home. Harris, Gerard, I want to go home. The two men didn't know what to say. I had enough of playing here. 30 years we lived here. Fought this stupid war of the gods. I want to go home now. What do they even say to that? How do they even go home? How do I even go home? Mirei, I am not going to kill myself, but if I am heavily injured in the next battle, don't save me. Mirei said. I had enough. I want to go home. Mirei, Harris, you had your fun. Don't you miss your parents? I saw them in my dreams. They were there. The gods told us if we died, we'll be back. Where we started. I had enough, Harris. It's time to wake up from this silly game. She looked at the two dumbstruck men. I am going to need some time. Yes. The two answered and quickly gave her space. Mireille was alone, and physically she was fine. She sat on a chair inside my secret hideout and spoke. Eon, was that real? I gave you dreams. But I don't know exactly what is in it. Can you give me more of those dreams? I don't know whether your hero power will interfere with it. She paused, and then she asked me a question I never expected. Can you take my hero powers away? If I give it to you willingly, is that something you can take away? The answer was yes, of course. It's entirely possible to give away one's levels and skills. It had happened before so many years ago. Yes, I see, she said. Harris probably wants me to fight with him the next time. But I am tired of this artificial life. I miss my parents. I miss home. I miss being normal again. I hate this hero thing now. Things may not be well back home. It doesn't matter. Mireille sobbed. I didn't realize how sad it is to never dream of my parents, or my siblings all these years. That we've somehow accepted and rolled with this new role of ours as heroes so freaking easily. It's just fucked up. So fucked up, and all I want to do is quit this game. It's not a game. Well, who knows? It might well be, with how they've been toying with our feelings and emotions. Mireille said. The worst thing is I didn't even know until you've disabled my hero class. I never even realized how weird it is for us to just roll with it and forget so many important things about our world. I didn't say much. I just gave her some tea, and now that she's not in pain, there's no reason to lock her up in here. Her curse still remained, though, and that's something even with the hero's star mana I still can't solve. Maybe. Not yet. She rested for quite a long time, alone. Eon, I have a favor to ask. Yes. When it's time for me to die, can you take my levels away? I can't do that. Levels must be given away freely. I can give you my levels now. Or can I make it into a magical contract such that you take my levels the moment I die? Why not give it to Harris, or Gerard? They don't realize it, Eon. Maybe Gerard knows, but he is drinking away his worries. Maybe he knows and doesn't want to admit it. It's a kind of suffering to continue this game, knowing that our old life, our real family are all waiting for me over there, on the other side. Giving them levels just prolongs their suffering. It'll help them. It's a twisted kindness, that heroes die frequently. Imagine never being able to die, and stuck in this world. If you realize that your loved ones are still there. At this point, well, if she wants to give it to me, I'll give it to you. But then again, I can't use it. If I remember correctly, levels surrendered are converted to experience seeds. It just goes into my growing pool of experience seeds. But, sure. That day, I gained a level. I think it was when I used the hero's star mana to crush that black thing. You gained a level. Level 156. Skill. Natural mana overwhelming upgraded. Skill. Soul Forge upgraded. Improved control and abilities over Soul Forge functions. I am really slow at gaining levels. The last time I gained levels was 5 years ago. That's slow, right?